You got 6 people. You're at 6
You
people.
never know. Hey, there's some people here. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. I'm here with Larry. Larry, how you doing?
I am doing okay. I can't complain.
Can't complain. There's plenty to complain about. We're going to get to that right here on the show. But hey, happy Friday to everybody who's chosen to spend some time with us. Thank you for doing that. And I've got some various nonsense to throw your way, and we'll see what's going on with comics. Should get some people in. But what are you up to these days, Larry? You're working on stuff.
I'm working on a project. Can't say nothing about it now. Hopefully soon I'll have something to share. Hopefully on this channel, if you'd have me on to talk about it. And with that being the case, I have a couple comics stacked up that I want to reread in my read pile. I'd read the individual floppy issues. A buddy of mine picked this trade paperback up, Machine Man, the DeFalco trim.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Windsor Smith. He picked it, and I've been searching it. You would not believe it. It's just how hard to come by those early Marvel trade paperbacks are, like with the Long Shot trade paperback by Niacenti and Adams.
Mm-hmm.
And that is in a read pile. But I want to reread. I got Flaming. I only have the second volume, but Flaming Carrots Greatest Hits Volume 2, which has like the Mystery Men and stuff like that in it by Bob Burden.
Yeah,
and I like that stuff. I like that kind of weird stuff, and I've been wanting to reread that, and reread the Best of Milligan and McCarthy Skin about the British skinhead with the thalidomide baby who was turned into a British skinhead, which was like, this is contraband. You can't bring this in the UK, and I was being published by Tundra, which was Kevin Eastman's kind of in a way it was art house imprint. People probably didn't realize he rolling in the money after the Ninja Turtle stuff, and he was putting out but he got, I'm going to get a few projects, and comes back from San Diego Comic-Con. I'm going to publish like 70 something, and then eventually had to sell off to Kitchen Sink, and it was one of these comics with Peter Milligan and Brendan McCarthy that was pushing the censorship issue with the UK. And eventually got published there, but it's just hard to come by except in the collected form. But stuff like that.
A lot of people really aren't aware of those guys. Well, we're going to get to Ninja Turtles in a minute, but it is so much to talk about. It's been a absolutely crazy week. A lot has been going on, and I think it's going to be just every week is going to be crazier and crazier, at least for the next 30 days or 3 weeks or so. It just reminds me, actually, the election is. Am I going to be streaming on the election? No, damn. I'm going to have to do a special election night, one of these, just for all the people who want to escape the news chaos. It's like 10 days away.
Oh, my God. Well, I will say this. Being in a rural area, I'm very happy about that.
Good.
Surprisingly, I told someone, he's like, we probably all white people. And I'm like, no, not really. I was like, man, this is kind of diverse around here, actually, for being a rural area. But I was like, I have all my hurricane preparedness stuff just in case. That's your powdered milk, your liquid milk, those, what is it called? The brand name. But it's the 1 liter that waxed plasticide, whatever called cardboard with a little pop lid. It's good for a year. Milk, the liquid milk, is about 16, 20 ounces of milk or whatever. It's it's that, canned food, ammo, bandages, cleaning, iodine pills.
You can go off the grid. You should definitely. We will do. I'm committed right now. We'll do election night stream. We'll invite some people. It'll be fun, and we'll just. But the key is, got to be happy and drunk, no matter what happens.
I could be. I think my day is I just deprive myself of some sleep, and I'm equivalent of a drunk.
There you go. No sleep.
That's I sleep stream. Honestly, I remember saying I stayed up for. I wanted to see how long I stayed up for. 38 hours. I stayed up for straight. No.
Yep.
No speed pills, nothing like that. Just caffeine. And I started seeing purple and pink buffaloes running through my living room. I heard them first. I heard them coming down the hallway, and some were phasing through the walls like Kitty Pryde. And one of them stopped in the middle of the herd. And the others were phasing through this one and looked at me. And I'm sitting on the couch, and it was looking at me, and it was like for somehow, you know how like remember the Hypno Toad from Futurama?
Oh yeah.
Like,
yep.
Well, this is like this buffalo's eye started squinting and it was like piercing through me. It was shrinking me into the couch. And I'm shrinking into the couch, and I'm like, I got to get my sketchbook, and I got to draw this out. And it slowly shook its head no. Like I was like, it didn't say no, but it just shook its head no, back and forth. I was like, this. I think I might need to get some sleep. And the worst thing about it, I was expecting to sleep like 13 hours or something like that. I only got like 4 hours of sleep.
It doesn't work that way. I mean, I've traveled a lot internationally, and it's kind of the case. I can't sleep on a plane. I've tried. I just cannot. So it's okay if you go over to the West, if you go over to Asia, that's actually a good strategy. You never, trust me, this is a pro tip for everyone. If you're going to Japan, to China, to Taiwan, whatever, from the US, don't sleep on the plane. You will mess yourself up. Stay up, do what you got to do. You get in, you usually get in the afternoon, kind of later in the day, Japan time, the next day. So your brain messes with your brain. You try and just survive as long as you can and go to sleep. It's the best way to do it. But so that trick works. But the other direction, I've gone over to Europe a lot, and I can't sleep. And that direction, you have to sleep going east, or you blow your mind out. And the next time you think you're really exhausted, you go to sleep, you're going to get like 4 hours, and you're going to be up, and you're just going to be messed up forever. Lots of alcohol is the only cure, I think. So,
well, that's I mean. For many, that's the cure for everything. Are you sad? True. Alcohol. Are you happy? Alcohol. You're married? Alcohol. Divorced? Yep. Alcohol. Kids born? Alcohol. It's like everything. Have you been shot? Alcohol or cocaine? Predator 2. Just like you get shot, just rub the cocaine into the wound.
Yes, it's a problem to solve for all life's problems. But it is funny because I see other people on the plane like passed out sleeping, and I'm always so jealous and then pissed. And I've never done this, but you always see these people who are like drift, they're in a blissful sleep, and I'm like, now's the time to go to the bathroom and just disrupt all the chairs on the way. I would never do that, but I have this deep. It's weird how you get these deep-seated like anger feelings. Anyway, I am drinking some whiskey today. I am a fan. If this goes back a ways, so if you haven't been watching kind of my channel for a while, like God, it was like a year ago. I did this smoking the glass demonstration of how.
I like that. That was actually kind of cool. I've never seen that done before.
It's cool. It's like the bum's way of doing it. You can buy, if you're a true kind of millennial hipster, you can buy an entire kind of smoking glass operation there. But I've got a way to do it just with a little hand torch and like a salmon smoker plank or whatever it happens to be. It is great. If you've never tried that, you got to do it. It's easy to do, and it just creates a nice flavor to the drink. It's great. But anyway, this is okay. I don't like peat as an advertisement for my alcohol. Like that's a weird, I don't know. I just doesn't sound quite right.
I just think of like when they pulled them those like very ancient bodies out of like peat bogs and everything like that, like mummified because of the minerals and all that stuff, and were preserved. That's what I think of when I hear peat, or like some like wizard or something. I got to go to the peat bog and get this to make this potion.
It's not right, but this is a very, very smooth whiskey. It's going down really, really nice, and it's got a little bit of a sweet taste to it. So I'm going to drink way more than I should. But hey, it's Friday, so we're having a good time. Yeah. I don't know.
It seems like every day's like ever since the pandemic, it's like days don't mean nothing anymore. Saturdays don't feel like Saturdays. Weekdays doesn't matter. I mean, no matter how much of a schedule I try to keep on, and like to act like everything's kind of try to stick to the schedule, be normal as far as that kind of goes, and it just doesn't work. It's like, what is today? Tuesday? It feels like a Friday. It's like, or Saturday or Sunday. It doesn't feel, the days don't feel like, but hey.
It doesn't matter anymore. It's and you have to keep your schedule because you can just fall kind of mentally right off the map very, very easily because it's.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like
up here in Seattle, it's a mess.
Oh, I bet. 911 system goes down yesterday after that. I saw the Andy Go. It's the. They're talking in their Telegram. They were talking about how using bots to block the 911 call system, and then like 2 hours later, statewide. Apparently, that's been happening all over the U.S. And like, hey, ain't it great for everything to be connected through computers? So people can remember when it's analog. Then isn't that great?
One thing, and sorry, I'm down the rabbit hole of travel and alcohol at this point, but and then of course Portland, but with Andy, it is what I miss about kind of the old world. And now that we can very quickly be connected to digital devices, this is totally an old man rant coming, but I have so many good memories of like going to Barcelona and kind of drinking my way down Las Ramblas and just having a good time there, or various things. And you weren't connected. So you left wherever you were, even back in the days where there was a laptop and you did have some internet. But like even 15 years ago, you would go out into the world, into the streets, and you could just disconnect for like 6 hours. And that is gone. Like that's completely gone now. It sucks.
Same thing. Like there was a family homestead my great grandfather built for my great grandmother, and as a wedding gift, and built her a home. And the place we'd go to when I was a kid, I remember going in there. They had a tiny black and white TV. They'd occasionally, if they can get a station, is living in a valley and they're subsequently over the airwaves, and maybe they get like 1 or 2 channels out of like with a 5 or 6. They would get stacks of magazines and books and all that kind of stuff. Mainly, you got there was a babbling brook and everything was nice. And then one of my aunts, great aunt and her daughter just stayed there, and eventually they got satellite TV and they got this and that. They kind of modernized the place, and everything's gonna be connected and Wi-Fi router and everybody. And then I was like, it turned it into something it was. And it was like you couldn't. I was down by the creek behind the house, and there's a well house, and they're cleaning the grasses up and stuff off the side of it to keep it from going inside the well water, because it was just pure, mountain spring water. This is truly like coming out of the mountain. And the thing's like, good gracious, 80 years old, this little area, because it was before my grandfather built there. My great grandfather, it was part of that land. My grandfather bought it and everything like from his father-in-law. But it was fresh water. But cousins of mine on their cell phones, I'm like probably playing games. But still, like if you're from the area, maybe, I don't know. This is like, what are you doing? I'm like, can't you enjoy what's going on around you? Can't you enjoy nature? No, you got to be on your phone. You got to text. You got to Snapchat. You got to stop it.
It disconnection matters. It makes the connection parts more valuable. But I know. Hey, so into the world of comics, I put up a video just like kind of about an hour or so ago. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, IDW. They saw Marvel and the Eternals in their 37 covers, I think. And they were like, screw you, 71. So first off, Ninja Turtles, this is pretty solid, right? I mean, like this is a story I think a lot of people are waiting for. Are you mentioned Eastman earlier, but
I prepaid for it back in July. When I found out about it, because I don't really follow, like, because until it comes out, it's like one of those things. It's like same thing with the crowdfunding book, same thing with anything in previews. Until it's actually going to happen, I don't bother worrying about it. It's like, well, but you pre-order this. My buddy of mine, he does that pre-order stuff, and he's gotten screwed so many times lately because this year alone. But even before this year, he's been like, they shorted me on this. I'm like, what's the point? Until it actually they have it, and I'll get it. So I picked up my Sorry Tale, took it to the comic book store. So I'm gonna get that Last Ronin comic, and of course, like about a month after I prepaid for it, we're delaying it at that Comic-Con at home, and nobody at IDW will say exactly what happened. I guess so. It's like, well, this is gonna be a big deal. Let's get somebody better than Andy Kuhn to do the artwork, which is like, if you ever looked at the original Ninja Turtles comics, most of the art is not that great. But it's
very rough. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's rough, and I like that roughness. But they're getting these guys like, but their art's like Mobius or whatever. I'm like, that's not Ninja Turtles. Like that Michael Zuli Ninja Turtle stuff was not very Ninja Turtle-like. Andy Kuhn stuff was like, this looks great. I'm looking forward to this. So I prepaid for that comic. I'm getting something else, and then now they're doing the whole variant cover scheme stuff. It's just like we're trying to make money off people. I get that. IDW is hurting, but I don't even think 700 covers would probably bail their asses out.
It's a lot. It's now do note now in fairness, and this is an important distinction because I'm having fun just kind of taking the piss out of IDW for 71 covers because that is an absurd amount of covers.
Oh yeah,
the vast majority of covers are for their store variants. They're commissioned for stores and everything else. So it's not quite as egregious, I guess. I don't know. It's just. It very much is, and you see all the sites are going all in on 71. And yes, Eric, you are correct. It is clickbaity. Hey, Nerdette, how are you doing? There are a lot of it is a lot of store commission covers, and I think that is definitely at least it balances a little bit. It is 5 issues long, is in this limited series. It reportedly is a continuation of kind of an original story. So apparently the plot, everything else is really. It's going off of original notes.
From what I understand, not only original notes, but original breakdowns too. Because this is the breakdowns layouts that Eastman and Laird did back in the 80s. That's from what I understand. And that they are, like, well, we were going to do this. And I guess they got too caught up with everything with the cartoon, the toys, doing their own thing. Like, Laird set up the Zaret grant was part of that whole deal. And then you have Eastman, basically publishing any and everyone under the sun. Like somebody had a project. It's like, here you go. Here's some money. Let's publish it.
Yeah.
Had a hand in publishing Madman by Mike Allred. So I think it was like one of the first. I think that's one of the first Madman issue came out through him, and then eventually Dark Horse and everything like that. But yeah, it's like this is a project. It's kind of the torch has been carrying for 30 plus years now. And it's like, well, what's the wait? But it's like every 2 months, I think issue's supposed to come out. It's like October, then December, then February, and then like I believe April. I think that's the release schedule. It's like every 2 months because it's like 48 pages each issue or something like that. So yeah, but $10. Whew,
it is a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's a heavy price tag. Now, granted, I do think we're getting a pretty solid kind of original idea story. Does sound like a good hook. Three Ninja Turtles gone, 1 remaining, and a dark story. I'm not spoiling anything. That's in the solicit. So it is okay. What is funny though is the covers are like all over the place in terms of what I would call quality. I mean, it's a little bit of something for everyone. So on the bright side, you can find something. But I guess I look at this and I go, all right, well, somebody's going to have to beat this, like Marvel or somebody. There are more variant covers coming from someone. Yikes.
it's like the whole my beer situation, like you were joking about, and I'm one of the people I honestly look down upon people that buy variant covers, and I know that probably alienate, piss off, isolate myself from many people, but variant covers are a scam. They're one of the things about the 90s I wish it stayed dead, but they don't, because people say, oh, but I like this cover by this guy, I want to buy this, and it doesn't actually add anything. Like it's perceived value. It's like, wow, it's 1 in 50 variant, you have to buy like this. It's like, what? So you're going to stick a shop for this these comics will probably sell, but good Lord, I mean, some of the covers don't. I mean, if one of your covers was by like Simon Bisley, who has a connection to the past, or Eastman, Laird, like like the throwback cover or something like that. Hey, fine, okay, I get that. It's like maybe part of the proceeds go to some charity or something. Okay, that kind of variant, no problem. But this I don't see a point. It just seems very wasteful. It's like it's got the hologram cover and it's just that. Like I'd rather have a gatefold, like a standard, like here is the comic book with a gatefold, like they used to do back in the day. Where you folded, oh, that's awesome. Or
it's a bit much, isn't it? I mean, it is a bit much.
It is
funny though.
Way too much.
It is. I think people have different views. I as a fan, and you're just coming to get the comics, unless you feel compelled to buy them all, and then you're off on a pretty lousy quest, I think, at that point. Generally speaking, it's kind of no harm, no foul, right? It's like if if there's a cover there, do you want to buy it? Fine. As a retailer, this creates a burden that sucks, I will say, for sure. But it is, it always feels like a marketing ploy, and it is tough. It frustrates me for sure. But anyway, Somebody threw up a question real quick before we get on to some other things. So this shifts gears a little bit. A couple things to talk about, actually. As a Batcat fan, okay, from Batman 101, do you see the resolution there at Meet Me a Year Later, effectively shutting them off separately from now on? Yes, I do think so. And so for people who don't know what they're talking about here, in the latest issue of Batman, in this one, Batman and Catwoman decide to go for a break, sort of. They're just going to go on a pause for a year. And so they go their separate ways. They're going to have their own adventures. It's all part of kind of tearing down Batman a little bit. It really feels in DC like they're trying to position Batman to really align with the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, where it's a little bit more gritty. He's on his own, a little bit more, not all the tech, and just a kind of a grittier Batman. And so getting Catwoman out of the picture probably makes sense in that perspective. But it's hard not to look at this and go, Tom King is just starting his Batcat 12-issue 1 year story, and there's been kind of back and forth about if it's in continuity or out of continuity and everything else, and that statement seems to very firmly hammer in that it's not in continuity anymore. It feels like a separation in the path to me. I don't know if
I think that's the case right there, because you're looking at I have not read Batman books of late. I kind of stopped reading back in around, what was the Button? Well, the crossover of the Flashpoint Batman, which actually I really like Thomas Wayne Batman, and was like, oh, they're bringing him in. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna stay away from this. This does not look good. But this is 80 issues ago or so. Yep. But we're dealing with the situation which I've always hated in comics: the tail wagging the dog. Yeah. Wow, we have Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. Well, he was the inspiration by Brian Hitch, in Miller when they did Ultimates. So let's make the main MCU comic, but it's Nick Fury Jr., but he looks exactly like Samuel L. Jackson. Oh, let's bring in Phil Coulson. Oh, the tail wagging the dog. Yeah. Where's Nick Fury at? Really? Oh yeah, he's the Watcher on the moon currently, or maybe because all the other LMDs or something. Who knows? It's so stupid. And it's like comics can be stupid and be fun, but it's just stupid and not fun. It's not interesting. It's not like I look at it that way. It's like a lot of it's a lot of that stuff. Like what they've done to Taskmaster made him into a joke. It's like this guy was a threat, a real threat at one time, mysterious, interesting. Like Avengers Academy did better with him than anybody else in the last 7-8 years, if not more.
Speaking of which, I was at one of the Target, one of the local big box stores here in this area, and they've got the Halloween costumes up. There's all these Taskmaster costumes up, and it's funny because this was all kind of a fallout of Black Widow. Should have been out by now, probably should have been out on DVD by now, and it's not. So now you've got this Taskmaster costume sitting there, and there's tons of them. And nobody, the kids have no idea even who that is, because that character hasn't come out in the movies and all that. And I'm looking at that like, it's just all the, all the things getting screwed by this pandemic. It's hilarious. Well, not, but
Well, I had to sit through that trailer when I saw New Mutants. I saw the Black Widow trailer for the first time. I was like, that's supposed to be Taskmaster. It looks like generic Arrow villain.
Yeah,
like that kind of deal. It's like when Arrow would do villains, except for Deathstroke, which was actually the Deathstroke and Arrow was probably my favorite take on Deathstroke in anything.
But so you are a lucky guy who's actually been to a movie theater, and you went to watch. So lay it on us. You went to see New Mutants.
Yes, my movie theater, which is a tiny movie theater, have 6 cinemas, and 3 of them are these much smaller, 50-seat deals. They're newer editions, because it was an old movie house that was built in the 70s, early 70s. Because before that, there was actually a drive-in theater, but then a Tractor Supply company and all the farm implements bought the drive-in was not doing business, not doing so well, so they bought that and put a lot of there's Tractor Supply stuff where the old drive-in used to be. So I'm in there, and I go in, and I'm like, I'm gonna get there early just in case, because I was willing to go drive down to South Carolina to go see New Mutants. I just want to get just anything other than just going to grocery store, medical center, Home Depot,
I want to know, right? So in the chat, you're like, who has a theater open? Because for me, I looked into this. I would have to drive into Montana basically to get to a movie theater. So I'm curious how many other people are like completely envious of you right now in the chat for getting actually to see a movie.
Well, not just see it. I'm first world luxuries as it were, or small town luxuries as well, because people still are very fearful. It's like, or they just got. I think it's a combination of fear and just not want to go out. It's like, what's the point? Mm-hmm. And the only two movies they had showing is like they had two of the cinemas open. One was New Mutants, one was Hocus Pocus, and I was the only one in New Mutants, which is, I guess, is very telling. And one of the people that run the theater come in like, thank you so much for coming. Like, they were just happy to have people. And I got a big old bucket of popcorn, even though it was like extremely salty and turned me into like a mummy afterwards. But it was actually I enjoyed my experience. Whole theater by myself. Well, so I'm sitting there, and it's like just being able to watch a movie in peace. Nobody on cell phones, nobody Snapchatting, nobody taking selfies, which I've had happen. Nobody drunk in the back. Had a couple, like when I saw Kong Skull Island, I had a couple in the back that were drinking out of those mini airplane alcohol bottles and were rolling them down the aisle.
Nice.
And then underneath the seats, and I'm like, hey, you need to get rid of these people. I was like, cut it out. I turned around because it was like me, my brother, and there's like 2 or 3 other people, and then them. I'm like, cut it out. And I'm like telling them what to do. I'm like, and they're like, ew. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get your ass. And I was like, you need to call the cops, or you need to take these people out of here. And of course, the people at the theater didn't do nothing except sit behind them the entire time. So one of the persons sat there, and it's like, you ain't gonna be drinking no more tonight. And when they got out, they popped more bottles and were drinking on the way out. I'm like, you people. I rolled the window down. I hope you wrap your car around a telephone pole.
Yeah.
And I was like, my brother looked at me like, that's a little harsh, ain't it? It's like, I don't care. I'm like, man, that's wow. Maybe.
But you liked the movie.
I really enjoyed it, actually, even though I'm quite a violent, hateful now. But I really enjoyed it. It was actually honestly, in my opinion, tone-wise, it really captured the Demon Bear Saga story by Claremont Sienkiewicz. But also had, if you never read that, if you've ever seen any of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, it kind of has a very Dream Warriors feel. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 with your kids, psychic kids, as it were, dealing with their, it's actually probably the best sequel of Nightmare on Elm Street. I kind of prefer it over the first one, actually. But all right. It was actually pretty good. The effects, it was low budget though. That's what I liked about it. It wasn't some grand blue space laser. It's about characters. It's kind of Breakfast Club meets Dream Warriors, if you want to look at it that way. Okay. And daggone it's going back the name's on the tip of my tongue. I'd have to get her name real quick. The actress. Oh crap! What's her name? Anya Taylor-Joy. She was in that movie. She was in Glass. Okay. She was in The Witch. She's also in Split. She plays Magic. Hands down, like I've always liked Magic in the comics. I actually think the Magic in the movie was actually better than the comics version, like Legion was in the FX show. It's like because she was such an asshole, but it was that. You understand why, considering why would Magic be so mean and like kind of just be angry and kind of maybe a little crazy? Oh yeah, she went to hell. She was in limbo. She was queen of basically at a young age, and it was just the other dark stuff. It got kind of a grim like movie. I enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed it.
I want to see it. I'm anxious to see it.
I think you'll dig it if you like Legion, but I understand why others not. It's like this isn't like the. Yeah. This isn't like the Avengers. This isn't like the other stuff. It's because it's basically almost like a teen action, teen horror with a little bit of some action stuff too.
I mean, my bar is low. I mean, I do all these reviews and everything else, but generally speaking, for me, if it's something new and it's relatively entertaining, I'm generally good. It takes a lot for me to hate something. Now I can get there. I think Iron Man 2020 did that very well, but generally it's hard for me to hate something. So I'm anxious to go see it and see what it was. I love Legion. I thought that was one of the best things Marvel did for TV anyway. But anyway, it's very good. Hey, so this question kind of got answered in the chat, but I can go into a little bit more detail. Store variants. usually you have to of course pay, or you have to have a minimum commitment of orders, which is kind of the same thing. But if you order more volume, or sometimes in the case of like Marvel and others, it's if you order certain other titles, like if you order a different book they're putting out in a certain number, then you can get this one. Or if you maintain a certain percentage of orders over time, you can get access to variants. There's a lot of different ways you can do this, but that's kind of, in a nutshell, it's how it works. I'll do a video really kind of breaking down all the different things. I think I've still got some papers laying around here. Maybe I don't know if Yule's still in the chat, but he'll come on and the two of us can chat about this as well, because he and I have talked about variants in the past, and that'll be fun. So at any rate, that's kind of what's going on there. And yeah, there's a lot of variant covers. I think to kind of close on that, there's a lot of variant covers.
I did hear from a person I talked to that I don't think they have any reason to lie because of something happened, but there are, even though you can basically, if a store wants, like, hey, goes this company, hey, let's get a variant cover going, everything like that, minimum order count, but even they still turn money away. It's like, we don't want to work with that artist. We don't want an artist to do that character, which is like,
that's true. Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's like, you run a business, unless that person was like, hey, we're going to, I don't know, like Justiniano, which, him and Jar Jones are, they've pretty much any comic of theirs I threw out like into the trash. Even that Mosaic series, the John Stewart Mosaic series. For those who don't know, Justiniano, apparently somebody passed away. He took a USB stick to the funeral home. On the USB stick with photos of the person that passed away for the memorial service, and on the USB stick apparently was kitty porn. And they busted his ass, and that he was working on a Wonder Woman project, OGN, by this mother-daughter team that they wrote. It was supposed to come out, and then they just scrapped that. They didn't have nothing to do with it. They didn't even want to get somebody else to redraw it. But I understand why, but it's stuff like that. It's like I wouldn't want him to be like doing a variant cover. I could understand. It's like, no, we're not going to. No, that ain't happen. But someone that's not controversial in the slightest. But it's like that's how some people are. They're very it's not about the money. It's about like let the personal feelings get in the way. It's like when you're in business like that, it's like take the money, take the money and make a deal. But especially with the store variants, because to me that doesn't bother me as much as the like the 1 in 50 stuff where like you're forcing a store to have this stock that he might not be able to sell. It's like, why, I understand why some shops are like, oh, you want that variant cover? Well, you're going to have to pay for all the other, like, we are only got it, 30 for the pool boxes. We're only getting 10 for the shelf. You're going to pay for the extra 10 books plus the variant cover itself. And I've seen that happen. And I'm like, that's the way you should do it if you're going to do it like that, if it's 1 in 50 kind of deal. But
the stuff that gets really tough, I think, is when you get, like Marvel's is notorious for this. Like, hey, if you want this kind of variant cover to the Avengers, you're going to have to order, the this issue of Shang-Chi, and you're going to have to order at least 50% of this other thing, and you wind up getting all these other titles that have nothing to do with the title you're trying to order, and that stuff is what not only is it hard to kind of manage, but it leaves you with a lot of crap every time. So anyway,
it's like forcing your hand. Well, we need to punch up them numbers of whatever new Valkyrie. So like after that one shot, or do a Valkyrie series or something. Like, I don't see any legs for you could put Grant Morrison in his prime with Simon Bisley artwork for a Valkyrie series. I'm pretty sure that thing would not sell that great.
No,
it's you don't get a first issue push, but that's about it. I mean, it's like gotta have the consistent sales. I mean, gotta have like there's not much meat to that bone. That's unfortunate. A lot of characters are like that. It's like,
of pumping up the numbers. So I don't know. So I have fun with graphs. I guess some people like these. Some people are saying, nerd, whatever. I'm taking with you. You can do whatever you want. There's an interesting way of looking at it. So I want to throw a couple of these up. So I posted these on Twitter about an hour ago or so. So I apologize if you've already seen it, but just to quickly talk over it. 71. So Marvel in January, 71 comics. This is floppies. This is not collections, omnibuses, or trade. This is 71 books. That's a big ass number.
my God.
It's a lot. I mean,
King
that is
in
a
Black,
lot of
13 Dawn. It's like,
yeah. I mean, it is a lot. So at first I was putting this together. I'm like, oh, only 19 King in Black issues. That's not bad. I mean, 19. But then I'm like, oh, but it's 19 in January. Now, granted, I think War of the Realms was more than this. They were pushing a lot of comics out, but still, like, it's I mean, it's daunting. And if you think about Dawn of X, we're a little bit more than a year removed from when the X-Men universe relaunched. And to be at 13 issues in a month, it's a lot.
I think they just I'm kind of glad I punched out before the first X-Men issue dropped. I know I'd invested quite a bit of money already. It's like one of those things. Like a lot of people like I've already read like the first 4 issues of each book. I just can't drop it now. It's like I can. It's like I cut my losses. It's like I've been on bad dates before. It's like, oh, okay, we'll get to know you, but it's like, oh, I think you'll like my son. And I'm like, okay,
surprise.
I'll bring it back. I'm like, throw the money. I'm like, this will pay for the bill. Here's the tips included. I walked right out.
It is. I mean, you're kind of sucked in, and I don't know. So this is a good. So Lane asks, what do you suggest in January for King in Black? So if you're interested in King in Black, really, it seems like the issues to get if you want that core story, then you're going for, of course, King of Black, which I think is number 3. You've got the crap. Now it's a King in Black, like Symbiote World or something. The cover has Null digging his nails into the planet. That's going to be probably important. It's kind of a little bit of an anthology book, but some of the plot's going to be done there. And then it feels like Venom is probably your book to really keep up with the core storyline. Other than that, it sounds like everything else is very auxiliary. So then it kind of comes down to, if you really like Spider-Gwen, there's an issue there. If you like Spider-Woman, there's an issue of that. But you don't have to. If you're a big fan of the Black Knight, there's going to be a Black Knight tie into this. Probably won't matter in the course of King in Black, the story, but it's there. So if you like that character, so I think that's really what you're looking at. So I think you can get away with 3 issues of King in Black if you're just trying to get to the core story. And there you go.
It's like Flashpoint when they had all the tie-ins and stuff. The only really stuff that mattered was the was the main book. Everything else was quite ancillary. I think. Though I did love the Flashpoint Batman stuff. Like that was incredible. That's probably my favorite Azrael Rizzo team up, even more so than 100 Bullets. But just great take on the characters. But
this is a huge question here, and it's far-reaching. It's like a whole 2-hour topic of Marvel and DC storylines plots that just kind of got dropped or never went anywhere. I think there's a ton. I mean, it's over, especially if you go like 40 years back. And so I do have a video coming out, which I think is going to piss most of the people off who's in the chat right now, because on one hand, it's long, so I'll probably break it into 2. But Joe Corallo and I do a kind of retrospective on the death of Captain America. So we're looking at Brubaker's run, Civil War, and then the death of Cap and kind of the rest of Brubaker's run. We're looking at that whole thing. And I don't want to spoil it for people, but I know a lot of people have really fond memories of that Brubaker run. And going back and just reading it in the last week and kind of picking up the pieces, there were some interesting reveals in there. And there is a lot that is considered a very, very fond run, but some of that has not aged well. I'll just put that out there.
It's janky. I'll say this much: I've not listened to your interview. Yeah.
We'll come out next week. So
there you go. It's like I haven't. But last time I looked through it. No, I mean look through. I read the first probably about 15 or so issues, and then kind of skimmed the rest. I had the omnibuses, and I remember loving it the first time, but after a while, it's like I'm like, because you got the house, you got the House of M, kind of tie-in. You had the Civil War stuff. You had the whole deal with the kind of the evil the Red Skull, the Phantom Red Skull and all that stuff, and it's like, and the Bucky, who's Bucky, and all that stuff. I was like, and it's coming out at the same time. Honestly, I reread this one in full. Under the Red Hood actually holds up better which is basically the same story, but without the mess in the middle.
The reason why I bring this up is because it's related to this question. It becomes really clear when you read this that Brubaker had a plan for where his story was going, and Civil War just came in right in the middle of it and just peed all over it, and clearly took it in a different direction. And it's I don't remember it being so clunky, but when going back and actually reading the page, it's like, oh my god! And then there's little panels here and there that are just pretty amazing. Of like Cap and the Falcon talking about going and telling the protesters are wasting their time, and you wouldn't get mad. One of my favorite panels, like, you wouldn't get mad at a policeman for just doing his job and shooting anybody. No one would do that. It's like, oh wow, there's some amazing panels in there that are like, oh my god.
Not politically correct in the current year, right?
Yeah. It was there's some, anyway, it's I hope people listen to it. I'll probably break it into two, but Joe, it's always fun to go through these things, and I'm going to do some of these with you too, Larry. I think.
I look forward to that. I look forward to you and Joe's, because that was really enjoyable when you did the Death of Superman, and hopefully you can. Well, you probably could, throw in some clips for the.
I've got them. Yeah, I found them.
Cool. Because that was like a documentary. That's actually better than some of the comic documentaries I've watched, which is just like, hey, we got some cosplay chicks dancing around. It's like some boring comic book writers talking.
Yeah.
I love that Claremont documentary, because it was like parts of it were just like Claremont, Vicente, and Weezy just talking. But then like parts of it, they got like some cosplay chicks, is like Storm and Jean Grey or Phoenix, like moving around, like slow mo, like some Bond opening, like it's like in the middle of like chopped in. I'm like you clearly are just you're pandering. Oh, Sam, oh my god! It's like excuse me, the internet. The internet is for porn. There you go, people.
It's some amazing stuff. But to the original, there's so much to drop. Like the Teen Titans through the 80s, there's a lot of stuff there that got dropped. There were some things Claremont was setting up that got dropped. I mean, that's a great idea for a video topic. So if you don't mind,
Summers brother, that eventually did pay off, but
it
took a long time, and
the whole
it's like ashes in your mouth. It's like one of those things. It's like the Daily Genesis concept, I didn't mind too much. The whole like Xavier's throwing people to the meat grinder. He's done that before, Mimic back in the day. It's like, that kind of stuff. This is not like Xavier. Like, he's the bald guy in the wheelchair he's a paramilitary leader of child soldiers. They're teenagers. They're minors fighting a. This is so crazy. A bald, paralyzed man who could control people's minds and read their intimate thoughts has
it's creepy.
Gotten a bunch of child soldiers with superpowers to come to a school by themselves without any guardianship. Who's to say he didn't manipulate their parents' minds?
I mean, when you say it like that, it's creepy as hell.
Not only that, they're fighting a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah, no,
it's like, Jesus, what are you doing? It's like when
a lot of comics have that. It's not just aging badly. It's like the premise no longer works with, and this is what you'll see in the Captain America run. There's a lot of talk about kind of government corruption and police that, in light of this current year, is just wow. I mean, it is. It would not be published today. We'll put it that way. So.
Oh yeah, same thing. Like you look at Oh, what was it? Oh God. Well. Dark Knight Returns, for that matter. It's like that kind of deal. Like some of these stuff, like it would not. I don't think it would fly today. A lot of these comics, a lot of the comics back in the past, like even some of the Captain Marvel stuff, the Monica Rambeau classic stuff, probably wouldn't fly. But
yep, we will. And Ash is right here. So kind of. Well, actually, before we do it, and I'm definitely working with Joe to do. I want to do Titans is a great idea. We'll do something with Legion of Superheroes at some point as well, kind of from that timeline. So we're just going to keep going with this stuff. I am going to be launching hopefully very shortly on Apple Podcasts. If you want to go that direction as well to listen to the content, you don't want to give YouTube your money. I don't blame you. So that's coming as well. But we'll definitely. I'll mention Titans. I'll bet he'd be super into that. 45% of Marvel Dawn of X and King of Black. Yeah, it's just a lot. And then this picture I thought was pretty interesting. So Marvel at this point, just by the numbers, is it's almost 50-50 now, split between limited series and one shots and limited series one shots and ongoing books. And the ongoing books, I mean, it's hard to call a lot of what Marvel produces today ongoing when they're rebooted after like 10 issues, or if they never make it to 20, I guess it's ongoing. But and for me, just for what it's worth, for my bias, I don't inherently care about this picture. If the content is good inside the comic, I don't particularly care too much. I do think some of the stuff's stupid. Like they've got the Maestro as a 5-part series that then ends, and then they immediately start a second 5-part series, or what they're doing with Peter David's symbiote Spider-Man. It just, I don't know what the hell they're doing there. But
I'm glad you said that, because I was actually kind of interested in it, because I enjoyed the the Future Imperfect.
It's good. It's very
good. But then, when they're talking, 5-issue series, and then I heard about, I was like, limited series, like, okay, it's going to be a very self-contained. It seems like it's probably going to end on a cliffhanger. Pick up the next installment in another 5-issue series. It's like, no, stop doing that. Tell a complete story, then tell another complete story, and then another complete story in like 5 issues, 4 issues, what have you. But they can't do that. They can't simply have the end, because it's like, if we do that, they'll just jump ship and they will never come back. If you tell a good story, people keep coming back and coming back. Don't put the stinger at the end, like with the Super Mario Brothers movie, or like with the Mortal Kombat. It's like, I will get, whatever. Like, you won't believe what happened. No, don't do that. Just tell me, give me
tell a complete story.
Exactly.
It's painful. I don't know. It is painful to me. Hey, a couple quick questions. The shop, it is coming along, and I think at the start of the year I'll put it in. I posted this on Twitter. It was a funny moment for me. The place I was going into is in Bellevue, in Washington State, and I wasn't keeping it a secret anyway. But they just built a new Target, and at the Target was going to have a Dave & Buster's there and a Chipotle there, kind of in this little large building complex. Pretty good location. Was really happy, all ready to go there. Wound up pulling out of it when it got massively delayed, and then some of the protesters broke some stuff there. It was a bit of a mess. But kind of hinging on my whole decision to go there was Dave & Buster's as that's a big arcade. It was going to fit kind of the demographics of who was showing up. And Dave & Buster's appears to at least have pulled out, or I don't know what. I drove by there the other day, and it's been replaced by a Virginia Mason Medical Center. And I was just driving by like, oh, thank God I got out of that. It's just like
and that's still, and I'm mistaken, didn't look it up, but with my little inferring modal, detective knowledge, my little Columbo-esque take, that's probably some kind of where you get what is it called? For the methadone, like a methadone clinic kind of deal, right?
No, not really. No, that would have been.
I wouldn't be surprised.
That might have worked more. I would have changed the dynamic of the shop, offered some brownies and things. No, it was no, it's just like a medical clinic. They do all kinds of things there. So
okay, I was about to say, I was like, man, I'm just picturing like some dope fiends doing the shuffle outside.
That could work. I'm glad though, because it blew my whole different. So anyway, looking for a new spot. I'll have, but I am opening. I continue to collect comics and buy out inventories and all kinds of crap. So, anybody know what's going on with the Outlawed event? It's happening. It's actually happening right now, and the Champions is all hooked into it. They're canceling Miss Marvel, but the story will continue in Champions. It's a weird. This is like Civil War light, where the government's out to arrest the teen superheroes. It really doesn't make a lot of sense if you think about it. But granted, Civil War really didn't either. This is making a little less sense that it's just kids. But anyway, it is going on. The new Warriors, I have the new Warriors. I can almost guarantee that's coming out at some point. I know it hasn't been solicited and scheduled, but they got people to write it. They got some art in the bag. I can almost guarantee this is happening at some point soon.
Well, I remember back in the day, like when they would do the Cancel Comics Cavalcade over there at DC, like with stuff that was supposed to come out, didn't, because of the implosion. There are multiple comics out there that have been done, but never been published. Like, or we're in the process, and probably wouldn't take too much longer. Like that we're going to do the Swamp Thing 88, the Swamp Thing meets Christ, where he's talking to Christ, which is wasn't, to me, it doesn't seem blasphemous, because I'm like, it's not real. It's if you don't like it, you don't have to look at it, kind of deal. Yep. But this is the time people forget that the Last Station of Christ is getting bomb threats, terrorist attacks, people driving into movie theaters, death threats, bomb threats, all that kind of deal. So people pretty extreme when it comes to that. So, and also it was probably like, just, let's just cut a loss as a Swamp Thing. It's not a big deal. And,
here you go. So actually, so there you go. I guess it's going straight to trade. I don't know how I missed this. And somebody's saying maybe next week. This is a good decision, I think. If you're going to put this book out, this is a good idea to just try it out with trade. It is aimed at a different audience in your typical collector's market, so that's probably a smart plan. They need to start testing those waters, but apparently, there you go. Maybe it's out next week.
It'd be funny if it actually does really good sales.
I don't. So you're looking at the Amazon pre-order. I don't believe this is accurate. A lot of those numbers on those are they're old. They haven't updated them because Marvel hasn't given them new dates. We saw that with Runaways, but maybe I don't know. We'll see. I suspect with all the videos and everything that was made about that thing, it's not going to be nearly as cringy and dumb as people were saying. And I also think, the big mistake they made there was Safe Space and Snowflake as character names. That was
gas.
Yeah, I don't know. You're leaning into something there, but I am not sure what you're leaning into. Like that seemed to irritate both groups kind of equally and quickly. So I don't know. But look at this. So one more thing about this chart, as I come back to my PowerPoint. 42 trades and collect, like 42 books, and a ton of these are $125 each. That again is just a crap load of books that you're talking about here. It is nuts.
That's something I want to talk to you about. I want to pick your brain on this. Okay. Mm-hmm. For the longest time, wait for the trade, the trade writing concept.
Real quick, this Runaways is it's out next week. It is coming out, and it's resuming its normal shipping schedule. So there you go.
Okay, cool.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. Well, for the longest time, to write for the trade, since the Jamas Quesada era, 20 years ago, we're talking about 6 issues. Had to be 6 issues no matter what. So let's pack, let's fill it with filler, tons of filler, people just talking about nothing. Do you think that we're going towards, instead of the trade waiting? I've seen a lot of people buying omnibuses.
Yeah.
Everything's going like more omnibus centric. That's why 40 plus issues of 17 issues of this crossover, omnibus 1 of King in Black, omnibus 2 of King in Black, like $99 a piece.
Yeah, it's. I think there's more of them. One of the things, because I've argued with some people in the comments below or in the videos, not in the comments tonight, about the omnibus and trades, and also how easy it is to get access. Because the problem that Marvel has is they keep. That's why I think Yule is gone from the chat, but he could validate this. There is a lot of, Marvel lets a lot of stuff go out of print. If you're a collector and you're trying to get back, more than 10 years, it gets really dodgy really quickly. And even with all these trades and omnibuses that are coming, there's still a tons and tons of missing eras and decades. You can't find pretty significant parts of the Spider-Man era and other parts that you would want to read. It's it's free money, but anyway. Lots of omnibus collections, yes, but so this is true and not true simultaneously. Yes, there are a ton of them. Yes, you can order them, but Marvel keeps a lot of stuff out of print. And if you're trying to just tell a complete story, it's all over the place. It still is a mess where that's concerned. And I don't think that would be a hard problem to solve. Anyway, there you go.
Well, I think that's a problem in a lot of these comics. I think that's why you're looking at a lot of people that are going in these where to start. It's I've been thinking about that. It's it used to be this is an easy comic. Hand it to somebody Batman Year One, or you hand them whatever. You go hand them the Clone Wars or Clone Saga. About the Clone Wars.
Yep.
That's probably more interesting. Captain Rex saving the day. Spider-Man with Scarlet Spider, he starts killing all the clones, Kane and all that. But yeah, when you're dealing with all these crossovers and events and all that stuff, and it's that's what killed the Miss Marvel book, the Brian Reed. I know people dislike Brian Reed, but I really enjoyed that Miss Marvel book, except for the crossovers, which kind of does kill it in a reread. It's stop and go. It's like going 70 miles an hour, and then you crawling at like 3 miles an hour, and then you're completely stopped because of Civil War and Secret Invasion and all that other Dark Reign and all that. It's like, just stop it. But that's what Marvel does. Like, I honestly don't think those actually help in sales. Like, for more, it's just tied in. Like, no, just do it like a movie.
Yeah.
Dark Reign, the movie, comic, whatever, 6 issues, amazing comic. You need to go read this. Maybe have a blurb in the house ad, but don't tie into it, because to me it's just annoying and it breaks everything up. And like you said, that messes with Brubaker. Even though Brubaker probably had like Captain America, Falcon, like taking out protesters.
It is, but it's just a. I think this is the point. I had a lot of people argue with me, and I felt like if we were talking together, we wouldn't be disagreeing. It's just a lot of stuff. When I make the comment that the back catalog of Marvel and DC is just like a hidden gold mine that they don't tap into enough. I do know that they do omnibus, of course. I do know that they have trades. I do know that all that stuff is there, but I also know kind of consumer behavior, and that they come in, they're like, I'd like to read Spider-Man. Please give me number 1 of whatever number 1 means in some kind of volume. And then let me just I'll read this and I'll go to number 2 and number 3. That's the biggest kind of most stark difference between I think where manga is getting it really right in the US, why they're growing, is that they do make it relatively easy to just not think about it. Because remember, you have no context to comics if you're coming in new, and you just want to start with 1 and then move your way up. And Marvel and DC tend to throw a lot of just bizarre barriers in that direction. And it's weird. It's just, they make it too difficult. And unfortunately, friction is death from sales. So if you make it just even a little bit difficult, plenty of people will be like, yeah, it's not worth it, and they'll just move on to something new. And that's where you got to make it really, really, really easy to just get this stuff simple. And maybe this is true. Maybe this is the Disney Vault mentality of, keep some things out of print so you build up demand. Could be. It is strange. I have, and trust me, I have asked this for going on almost 20 years of people at Marvel, editors, other people in management. And there's never a clear answer. It's always like, oh, I don't know. That's not my department, is the most common one. And the other is like, oh, we'll come back soon. Just hang out for a few months. It'll come back. But it seems like there's no strategy there. That's my challenge. And you're right. There is, manga is more straightforward in terms of what it's producing, but it's not an impossible problem. If you know that Spider-Man's coming out in the theater, a lot of action with Spider-Man, you can start to just keep in mind, this is the thing that the comic collector, those of us who are into the comics, maybe need to forget. If you're a new reader, you don't care about Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular, Web, Team Up, any of that kind of stuff. That doesn't mean anything to you. As a curator of these comics, you can just slam the comics in whatever order makes logical sense to a new reader. Don't have the covers in there. Don't put in people's faces that you're going from Spectacular to Web or whatever it happens to be. That new reader doesn't care. That comes later when you're a collector. That's where you start to care about that stuff. But anyway.
I think that's the issue with a lot of comics, though, because you're looking at these stories, and a lot of them get broken up because of the events. Like, where did this black suit come from? Well, that's Secret Wars. If you hadn't read Secret Wars, you wouldn't understand that. Well, why is Colossus and Kitty no longer a couple? Well, that's Secret Wars as well, and this and other stuff like that. It's like, wait, Tony Stark ain't Iron Man? No, it was Rhodey at the time. And why is he hitting on Storm and this and that or whatever? He was hitting on Captain Marvel at the time, right?
Yeah.
And along those lines, like, this is with manga, and then it's also the fact it's like volume. When it's serialized, you chapter this, chapter none of these like fancy trying to get like story arcs. It's like there are arcs, like your tournament arc for DBZ, and you got the Cell Saga and Android Saga, all that kind of stuff like that. It's like that's much simpler. That's probably the closest to that American comic format, except much more decompressed in many regards. That's why I like Dragon Ball more, the original non-DBZ stuff, not before Gohan, before the tournament conclusion with Piccolo and all that kind of deal. Because it's much more comedic, much more action-oriented, fun. Kind of Jackie Chan, very Jackie Chan-like. But that mindset of just when it's collected, volume 1, volume 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because a lot of the Marvel stuff, it's like the Marvel Epic Collection. I got one in front of me right now. I know a lot of people rag on Ron Lim. I love Ron Lim.
Great.
He's a great. It seems like to be a great dude. I've never met him. I'd like to. He's like one of the few creators I've on my list of I have to meet that guy.
He's a very solid guy, very personable. Nothing, no drama. Very good guy.
And I enjoy his, especially with Silver Surfer and X-Men 2099 work. I really enjoyed that. And the Marvel Epic Collection, I got the Silver Surfer Thanos Quest. It doesn't have a number on it.
Yeah,
you have to, on a spine. So you'd have to either look on the back or look in the interior to figure out where it actually fits in. That's a lot of problems with these collections. There's no numbers, no way of like.
True.
Should I read this before or after? And it's like a lot of people say, "Oh, it doesn't matter." It kind of does matter in some regards.
Though. The stories do matter, and it is. And I think the True Believers line was good. It does. This stuff does matter, and I think it's where I'll take kind of an opposite side that most people in the comic industry take, and that's if you're producing these things, stop thinking about the long-term collectors for a moment. Stop thinking about numbering and renumbering and kind of all that stuff. Just forget what you think you know about the comic business and get a couple people to pivot to just focus on new readers, which everybody says they're doing, but then they attack that new reader audience using the same strategies as the last 20 years of the collector market. That's a mistake. The new readers, they don't know any of this. They don't care about it. Yes, if you took an omnibus and you took out all the covers and all the rest and you just mashed up the story into one story of a bunch of different series, collectors would be pissed. They definitely would be pissed about that. But that's not the market you're trying to grab here. The market that YA and Scholastic and Manga is stealing is the new market. And that new market does not know any of these covers and things exist. And you're just confusing them, making it harder for them to read it. So I'm not saying you abandon one to go the other, by the way. I think you continue to do your business with collectors and your current market. It'd be insane to throw that away. But if you're gonna attack a new market, it's a completely separate strategy. You can't do both.
Yeah, it's like with something like Kraven's Last Hunt. That was, if you had to go and collect the issues, it isn't like issue this of this book. It was over like 3 books. It's Spectacular, Web of Spider-Man, like Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You had to read, so you had to go and get like, Amazing Spider-Man, what is it, 230 something or something like that, like 231, 232, but 231 is part 1 and the other one's part 4, and it's like you have to go read this book, and it's like I'd like to buy baking goods. Like, okay, we have flour at this store. Okay, good. Can I get some baking soda? This, that. No, with baking soda is the other store. You got to go there for. Okay.
Yep.
Go there. Oh, can I get the shortening? No. You got to get the shortening from that store over here. So it's like, what are you doing? You're sending me back and forth just to get the ingredients. Like, forget the cake. Throw it up in the air. I'll go buy one. I go buy one of those greasy Pepperidge Farm cakes.
What's weird about this is that I'm looking. Because you mentioned it, I just picked up my hard copy here, Spider-Man: Fearful Symmetry, Kraven's Last Hunt, and I'm staring at it. And in many cases, they're doing it the way I'm describing it. They've got this comic. We get chapter 5. You don't see the comic cover here. You don't, reprint. It looks like they actually took out the artist and the writer, kind of the credits. So you get one story, and they've assembled it this way. And this is going to be easier for people to pick up. At the very back in the comic, then they go into all the, like, here are the comics it was in. Here's where you go find them. Here's where you get to get. This is going to be a lot easier for people to figure out what the hell is going on if you're coming in new. Now, again, collectors would be furious at this kind of packaging, but new comic readers, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for them.
So that's the thing. I'd rather go for the easier read, like you're saying, like but at least collect the covers. I like the covers collected in the back as well. Or I wouldn't mind them if they are like, kind of chapter covers, like with, a lot of manga will have the chapter covers as well. It's like, chapter 200 of something, whatever. Like, here's a chapter, the art cover. It's, whatever. Bulma on a, capsule flying bicycle or something. I don't know. That kind of deal.
Yeah.
Or that aspect, it'd be much better than like, you know what? Honestly, in a way, screw the collectors. Collectors going to collect the floppies. You're collecting trade paperbacks. You're kind of just like,
collectors will buy the omnibuses, and collectors will drop. But then that's a different product. That's $125 very prestige product, and it's cool. That's not a casual. No casual fan. No, in all my years running a shop, no dad came in with their kid going, "Give me that $100 plus omnibus for my kid who just saw Spider-Man the movie and wants to read more." Like, no parents doing that. That's a wonderful dream, but that would never happen.
I think it could happen In the future, possibly, but
not that price point though. I mean,
not that price point. No, it's like I think one of the biggest mistakes was Marvel and DC. Both when Marvel did the Essential line and then DC had the Showcase, they got rid of both. That was amazing. But once you start getting to a certain point, like the X-Men comics, I love Mark Silvestri. Don't get me wrong, but once you get in that, his artwork does not look that great in black and white. Neither would Jim Lee's or. But when you have somebody like John Byrne, you had Brent Anderson. Oh my God, Paul Smith, even John Romita Jr. I mean, even his stuff. Look at Ditko's stuff, like with Spider-Man Essentials. Him and Romita, Singer, beautiful stuff. Jack Kirby's work, I can read that stuff black and white, no problem. And it's like that stuff, $16. You get 20 issues, and it's in order. It's like Essential Volume 1, Essential Volume 2, 3, 4, and then let's get rid of that so we can do Epic Collection so we can charge twice as much for half the amount of content. But it's color. It's color, people.
There's ways to do it. I do think that there needs to be a split of, you want to go tackle a new market, you definitely need to do it. Use different strategies than what you use for collectors, and don't make it an either or thing. You can do both. You're big multinational corporation with gigantic billionaire companies backing you. You can figure out two strategies simultaneously. It is in your wheelhouse. I don't know. So what do you think? So what is this? $300, and nobody's buying every single Marvel book in January, but $300. You're checking in at $80 for King of Black in January, which means this thing's going to run for about 4 months. It feels like. So we're probably into around $300 and change for King and Black.
Good gracious!
If you're buying it this way, now, granted, you could buy it in trades way cheaper, no doubt about it. But that's still a healthy amount of cash.
I used to spend weekly $50 minimum in my comic shop from 2005 to 2008, or roughly it's like April 2005 to the Wednesday before Thanksgiving 2008, I spent minimum $50 a week. So that's a lot of money at the comic book store. So I would buy like all the tie-ins of certain books and everything like that. A lot of that stuff I got rid of a long time ago. But there are people that would buy that, but that's just seriously, that's a lot of money right there for all those, it ain't back in the day where you can get, go down and get it for $1 or, get a comic for $1 or a quarter, 10 cents. But it's like, what are you getting at the end of the day? It's like, and that's another thing. It's like, is it worth the asking price? It's like, is it gonna be worth money? Maybe. Most likely, no, because of so many printed and less errors or bat wings and stuff like that. But most of the time, you're not going to be getting that money back. And there's people that just love it. Hey, that's great, but you're not going to grow an audience when you're looking at $3.99 books, $4 for what? Twice for like $8, $9 maybe. Okay, let's see. For the cost of 3 Marvel floppies, which is about 60 pages worth of comics, you can get pretty much any manga volume out there, whether it's I don't know, Berserk, Attack on Titan, what have you.
Yep.
Pretty much get it. And that right, and $4.99 books, $7.99. They'll throw in a couple out there. It's like that's just what for the month of January. There's probably a couple $9.99 books sneaking around the corner.
It's crazy. I like doing this in the graphs like this because I'm a nerd, but also things pop out at you, and it is that $80 January King and Black. $50 for Dawn of X. I think it's going to be called something else. Maybe we're into like Noon of X. I don't know what phase it will be after Ten of Swords, but
Day of X, Twilight of X, Return of the Living X.
But the other kind of crazy part, and here's where I've beat up on Marvel plenty for this, and you'll see it in a minute why this is an interesting dynamic, is Marvel I felt has been creeping up their price for some time. But when you look at this, 80% of their books are at $3.99. And I think most people in the chat, I think if you're honest with yourself, and I count myself included in this, by this time, I would have gambled that $4.99 would have been that 80%, and they would have been flipped up, because this is a weird moment where the bulk of Marvel's books are their cheapest price, which is hard for my head to get around. I'm going to drink more of this smoky whiskey here, Trevor. That's what I'm drinking. I don't know, and only one book at $7.99. It's like a Christmas miracle out of Marvel. It's hard to wrap my. I mean, now there's way too
much credit, man. You're giving them too much credit because this is like January is. You ever watch Red Letter Media?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know, FU, it's January. This is Marvel's FU, it's January. It's like all the junk is being put out here. So wait till like September, because usually September, that's when the big events, you know. So wait, September 2021. That's going to be interesting to see where that goes. But
somebody mentioned earlier, by the way, it escaped kind of the challenge of reading some of the like Ultraman and some of the kind of the other books. I have done that. I knew to. In fact, I've got an embarrassing problem on my hands. I have this folder for all the audio tracks I record for videos, and then I take those audio tracks and I make videos out of them. And I know I have Ultraman in there, and I have like 4 or 5 on Europe Comics. So I have got at this point over 80 audio files in there that haven't been converted to videos, and it is it's a problem. I'm just saying. There's a lot of really good topics coming.
You're a machine, man.
Yeah.
I know you've said how easy your process is, but you know, you keep at it. That's all that matters.
So check this out. Now here's kind of the punchline to all this.
Okay.
In January, we're looking at Marvel and we're looking at DC. And I think this tells a lot of things in one picture. So first off, Marvel is almost doubling the titles DC shipping in January. The total cost is not doubled, but there's an interesting dynamic there. But DC is coming in at getting close to $1 higher average issue per cost. DC is clearly moving the price up. They're making $4.99 their new norm. This is a weird picture. If I had been told before I pulled all this together, I never would have drawn it out this way, and it's crazy. Hey, Brian. I don't know. What do you make of this?
I look at it like look at also their, titles, 39 compared to 71, event count, because basically it's their giant version of Age of Apocalypse, with all that stuff, which actually, when you think about it, Age of Apocalypse, there was like 4 issues but that was per, 4 months. So it's like, so like 25 books just for January alone. And then the collections of 15. It doesn't look good. Like you're saying, like you would expect Marvel to be, $5 each at least minimum, for their comics. But I don't know where this will be going. And it's like they might be overvaluing their properties. It's like, we're gonna make this a destination place. I'm like, yeah, you charge a premium, but that doesn't necessarily mean somebody will pay for it.
It is. It's tricky. Now this is a very valid point Paul brings up. I didn't have a chance to do this, but I'll do more analysis because I like to really kind of dial into this. The Future State books are bigger. So there is more page count. So I'm going to do an average page count as well that will make this whole thing look a little bit different. But I do believe that DC is in the process of trying to normalize us to $4.99. I do think that's kind of the price point they want to hit. And I feel like that's where they're going. And maybe it's extra pages to get to that $4.99, but that is the takeout price. And Marvel, and again, we'll see if this holds in February. But what's interesting is you got like King in Black, and you have a bunch of event series that Marvel knows will sell, and they're $3.99. I think King in Black #3 is listed at $3.99, which is not what you would expect.
That is weird because you'd expect it to be like what, $5.99 or something like that or more.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, it's like if there's demand for it, make it $9.99. What suckers will pay for it? Go for it. It's an interesting. There's a lot of interesting pieces to this. This is a lot, and I mean, and Marvel's just ridiculously outpacing DC in collections. And even the other part is crazy is if you think about Future State as DC's kind of thing that they're doing for 2 months, they're moving their entire line to Future State, which is not really true because there's plenty in Black Label and other stuff. But King in Black is almost the same amount of issues just for one event that Marvel is running compared to DC's entire new Status Quo line. It's crazy.
That's also what's so weird to me too, because a lot of those, of course, tie-ins. But they don't have nothing. It's just I'd like to. I wish I could see the numbers. I know nobody would actually publish them, because it'd be easily traced back. But I honestly, I've never like, oh my god, this is tying into this. I got to read this comic. Like that's never worked for me. Maybe it's probably clearly worked, as if they keep doing it. It's probably worked in the past, but it's never worked on me. It's like, oh my god, this is a Civil War tie-in. I got to buy this comic. Oh my god, Planet Hulk. I'm like, no, I didn't read it, except for I take it back. I'm a damn liar. Flashpoint Batman. It was a tie-in. I read it. Damn it.
Yep. Yeah. There's always
there you go. There you go.
Yep.
Whatever I say, take it with Lot's wife.
Well, it is, and I get into this with the videos and everything else I bring up. I mean, if you listen to my videos and expect like a very consistent non-deviation, no exceptions kind of thread of my chain of thought, I'm going to disappoint you all over the place, because I change my mind, or all kinds of stuff happens all the time. So that's normal. We try and do the best we can. But I remember, Gotham by Gaslight. There's another book. One of these videos I want to do sometime are like the books you have to read if you haven't done. I did the Punisher Return to Big Nothing. Gotham by Gaslight is another one. Like if you have not read that, that's amazing.
The first Elseworlds comic, probably the best Elseworlds comic. That is one thing. Is if you're a fan of Mignola, that and his Dracula adaptation that he did, the Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yep.
That right there. If you like Mignola, it's a prime. It's before. Honestly, I like Mignola still, but his art style these days is just like it's lumpy. It looks like somebody made a man out of mashed potatoes, and he's like falling apart, or made him out of wax, and he's melting under hot lights.
He is. And I also think I'm sure he's inking his own stuff at this point as well.
Oh yeah. Well, I think even then it was like he was. I think he was. No, I don't think he. No, it was like Kevin Nolan.
Yeah, he worked with
some of the stuff. Yeah. But it was one of those things. Like he just I like cartoony. Don't get me wrong, but it's like way too cartoony. It's like way too loose. It's like when it was so funny to see Ian Churchill go from Ian Churchill style to that Merman comic, whatever it was called.
Yep. I know exactly what you mean.
What the hell is that? No, that's weird. No, Ian Churchill. No, it's like, but I liked it. I kind of digged it. But
it is. And by the way, nobody ever be embarrassed if you missed one of these comics. There are a handful of comics, and I'll throw again that this is where Marvel and DC missed the boat a lot. And they've got just amazing books over the last 40 years. And if it's more than, say, 10, 15 years old, and there are exceptions, of course, they keep Watchmen in print because FL and more, or whatever they're doing there. There's other books out there that are like, they should be promoting. And Gotham by Gaslight is just a classic one. Absolutely.
Gotham by Gaslight, Batman Year One, Wonder Woman. That's the thing. There isn't really that many great Wonder Woman comics out there. It's like, I like the Georgia Perez run. I can't recommend it. It's a weird read. It's, and Wonder Woman's never been written that well. I love the Golden Age stuff because it's so weird and bizarre, but it's constantly weird and bizarre. There's she's got the drag, the woman wearing with a mustache and her turban. Oh, I'm a man. I'm a bad man. Yeah. I'm like, clearly you're not, but it's like because that Harry Peters art, which is just what a name.
This idea, I think, is see, that's why we have great people. I always love. This is a good idea. Marvel could easily do this, and now's the time. They should totally do it. Try. Build a whole campaign around it. It's like nostalgia, and maybe even you find your Ron Libs, you find somebody else to do some of these covers, and you go all in for 1 month. It's $1 a month. Every title is $1. If you plan it out so you're not giving away like your massive event or some huge reveal that you can make money off of that month, but make it $1 a month. And I love this tagline: for 1 month, travel the entire Marvel universe. That is a very good idea. That's like that's
a brilliant idea. Actually, idea. I would say not make it 20 pages, maybe like 16. Do like a 16, like
Well, it doesn't matter. Like, here's the thing.
Whatever. Well, I was thinking like. Kind of like what they would do, like is kind of a taste test, like an appetite. It's like a appetizer, a little kind of deal. But yeah, do something like that. Yeah. You got to get new people in, but you got to have that. You have the steady artwork. That's one thing about manga that's so great in the European comics, because it's all the same artists. It's like very rarely do they switch out artists. especially manga, because like the work ethic. Work ethic for the Japanese is like no joke. This is like, it's like that's why it's like they laugh, like everything. It's like everybody used to like, Japanese junk. It's like no, they make stuff. It's like you want to think of how superior you are. It's like when they're making electronics, your jobs are getting outsourced to third world nations. So it's like doesn't really work out in your favor, does it, pal?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the steady like I don't want to go and read a comic that starts out with let's say Dave Finch artwork and then goes to Greg Land. I mean, I know people like Greg Land, but like that's too jarring.
That's a bit of a jump. That's like going from a nice, I don't know, a nice kind of gritty kind of David Fincher movie with a lot of lighting and mood to porn.
Yeah, pretty much. The same face is like, oh.
You see what I did there? I was like,
I like that. I like that. I like that. It's like, well, technically, with Fight Club, like the intercut. It's like that's just, I don't even want that much Greg Land in the comic. No.
Yeah, that was a lot of Greg.
It's too much.
I think these things are fun. I now, granted, the only flaw to that idea, of course, is you would have to work it out with the comic shops that you don't, tank their rent and everything else that month. But you can do lots of things, and this would be, I put it this way: all the goodwill Marvel would do to the industry with both their retailers and also, definitely be self-serving, because maybe you follow up the next month with announcing more all-you-can-eat plans with your with Marvel Unlimited and other things. I mean, this isn't about saving the shops; it's about saving your business. But they would get so much goodwill if they came out and they said, $1 a month, and we're waiving our cut. For example, we're just going to waive our cut on the comics sold this month, so the retailers aren't going to get gouged. The distributors still going to get their money, and this is our big marketing approach to shotgun people back into comics. It's a good idea, and I think that combined with a lot of other things. There's, yes, there still needs to be word getting out for comics. You got to make people aware. That's where the earlier ideas we talked about are so important.
YouTube ads, bio-social media ads, like do a full market press. Boom, there you go. I mean, like if these, rinky-dink political candidates can get it, like I'd rather see Marvel ads. God help me, I'd rather see ads for, Squirrel Girl, Moon Girl. I don't know. Give me D-Man ads. I don't care. Anything other than political ads. But so you got
no kidding. If I could push a button right now and I stop with Biden Trump ads in YouTube, please, for the love of God, put you can market anything.
God, dude. One of the local dude, he's like, he cheated on his family. He took a disabled veteran's wife back to his home where he has his wife and kids, and it's like, he lied to them. He'll lie to you. I'm like, oh, stop it, please.
We're doing it. There will be the election night live stream, and I guarantee you everybody will do it. There will be far more popular YouTubers than I doing that, but we will come on. We'll drink, and I'll just bag on everybody. It'll be hilarious. It'll be great. I'll just say everything. It'll be the dark roast of Perch is what's going on. Here is. So next week, if you're going to the comic shop next week, or you're going to Comixology, wherever you're getting your comics, this is what we have next week. We talked about Last Ronin. Ten of Swords Stasis is probably the big kind of Marvel one to look out for, I would guess there. The Death Metal Rise of the New God is probably their big book, I'm guessing. No, Three Jokers. Sorry, Batman 3 Jokers #3. That's going to be your big ads, your big push.
I think next week is a tie between Last Ronin and Three Jokers for being the book of the week at very least.
It strikes me that there's a lot of titles on here. I'll go down. So Department of Truth by James Tynion it's a solid, good read of a comic. I'm curious. This is just yes, you can absolutely roast. Yeah, please. I'll get to this in a second. I think that Image has an interesting problem developing, and maybe not, but this is a bit of a prediction. As they're bringing kind of these bigger artists and authors in to do their books, they're bringing a style of hot-shotting the first issue and then steep decline in sales after that first issue. And I'm very, very curious. James says, by the way, thank you for joining, everybody, always. I'm curious how many of these titles can hold. Are we going to see Department of Truth now plummet in sales? Undiscovered Country is way off of its #1 start. And
I didn't care for Undiscovered Country 1. I read it, so I'm actually looking forward to it because I like that mystery concept. America locked itself. It's like okay, you don't want us to get involved, policemen of the world, all that kind of stuff. Oh, we're locking ourselves off. We're not going to mess with you, but you can't come in. We're locking everything down. The world's going to hell. We got to get into America. I'm like, okay, this seems interesting. And I'm like, what is this? It wasn't good. It was like, you got to hook me in that first issue. Money's tight. I can't we'll give it a couple more issues. Like, this isn't when it's like $1 an issue and everything's great. So yeah, it's like,
yeah. I think that's the problem. I think we got a lot of people whose style is to they're used to having the crutch of a Spider-Man or a Venom or a Batman or whatever it happens to be, where you can decompress and you can play things out. And when it's your own character on the indies, that you'll get that first issue bump, but then people wander off. It's like, so Ash is saying, Undiscovered Country is really good. You just need to get through issue 4. That's kind of the problem, though, with the indies, is that you got to give them a really compelling reason to stick through to issue 4, or they're going to bail on you.
Yeah, that's one issue I have with the upcoming, the second issue of the Department of Truth, because that first issue was like, it had its issues. I had issues with it, with the, our protagonist and everything. I was like, oh god, like, kind of 2020, our protagonist, all that kind of deal. It's like, oh, right-wing conspiracy groups online, me and my gay husband, and I'm like, okay, whatever. It's like, okay, it's whatever, but everything else I loved about it was like you're at a restaurant, okay, fly lands on your food real quick and you swat it away. Oh, no big deal. You still eat the food. You're not going to take this back. I don't want this. So you still eat it. But, well, I hope the second issue does not disappoint, because if it does, I think I'll probably just wait till the first trade comes out, because usually the Image collections, I don't know if that's like something that Stevenson and the rest of the people say, like, hey, we're not going to tell you how much you charge, but we were going to suggest first volume, $9.99.
It's controlled. Yeah, it's very controlled from everything I've heard, and I think that's smart. That's
very, very good at introducing people to the book, until you're like, oh, I got to go back and check. So maybe Undiscovered Country does get good. Yeah. I don't pay the price point per issue just to get good. It's like, no, thank you. I'll pass on that.
I don't know. By the way, soccer camp, I'd say I left out an S. Stranger Things soccer camp, because we need a spin-off of that, I guess.
I'm so over Stranger Things.
And then Ash is going to be doing a show. Is this so? You'll have to say in the chat, is this a regular show or just indie books in general? Because I'll definitely, you say starting Monday night. If this is going to be a regular thing, I'm very much into that. So let me know, and I'll make sure I promote it as well, because that will be some pretty damn good things. This comic, wondering if Death Metal Rise of a New God #1 is going to be a required issue. Yes, I from what I understand, yes, it is. This is the Batman who laughs, who's now the Darkest Knight, is going to go and go after Perpetua, and that's going to blow up those two. So from everything I understand, yes, this is kind of a required issue. It's one of the key ones. So there you go. And if you haven't picked up Kanto, I think Kanto is a really good comic out there, kind of a sleeper comic. I would definitely recommend that one. That's a very interesting, nice hook, and pretty good. I've got a review of We Live coming out. That was a really good comic last week too. So anyway, here you go.
They Live?
No, I thought that too. I'm like, oh, cool. Get some Piper action in here, but no, it's not. It's completely different. It has nothing to do with They Live, but it's a good one. I know.
Well, I wouldn't trust that kind of story being told today anyway, because it would be like, a little too.
Well, we're living that story.
Yeah, we are living it. It's like, the haves, have-nots, put on the glasses, fighting in the alley. Just the other day I was fighting in the alleyway with Keith David. I was like, hey man, I really enjoyed your voice work. I've enjoyed your, and he punches me. He's like, I'm not putting on the damn glasses, walk away. But
I could use some glasses right now. I'm drinking out of one. That's all I can do.
You use the bottom of the glass to magnify something like Eddie Valiant and Friend Roger Rabbit.
I need to fill this up, actually, come to think of it, Hanson. We're ready for more. Who decides a book is straight up to trade or broken up into multiple issues? Well, typically, I mean, if we're talking about something like Image, where it's the creator-owned stuff, then it is the author's decision of kind of how they're rolling it out. There's different business models for each. If it's Marvel, of course, the publisher's making that decision. One thing that's kind of important is that the publishers are making a lot of the decisions that really piss people off. And I'll say that from that's another one where I want to get Joe on. We can chat about that some, but it's like a lot of the a lot of the decisions that are really, really annoying are coming at the publisher level, not the author level, not the creator level. It's the publishers kind of making some of these choices. In many cases, the pitch that comes out is heavily controlled or requested by the publisher. And if we ever say, hey, this comic, this arc, this storyline, whatever it is terrible, it's like, yeah, somebody's writing to a pitch that the publisher decided. So anyway, save some of your irritation for them, I guess is my message. Why do shops open their statues? Do they?
I actually went to one. They're no longer in business. I don't know why, but they would open up the statues to come in. They were opening up the ones, the Batman Black and White series. The ones like Magnolia and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. They were opening up, making sure they weren't broken. That's the only thing I could think of. That's what I because I was like, what you doing? It's like, make sure I ain't broken. Don't want to sell someone something that's worth. I get that, but maybe they'll pick the best looking one, because I remember picking up some of those Justice line of action figures with the Alex Ross designs, and some of the paint jobs on them were sketchy as all hell. Like one Superman paint job had like an eye that was all like, he was like wall-eyed Superman. He's like, one laser beam, one heat vision going straight, one going at a 90-degree angle. So.
My shop opens up statues. All three of my. Maybe you have it right. I guess I'm the weirdo. I never opened up my statues. I don't know.
Don't blame me if it's broken.
No. I mean, because I had people come in and they'd be like, "Hey, I just bought this. It was broken." And then we'd go through that process, and you do have some returnability. You have some ways to do that if it is. But this is a new one for me. I've learned something. That's crazy. And then Brian, and of course, for those of you who do not know Brian is the one of the creators, the writer of Rags. So very solid comic, a comic that has a lot more depth to it that you might figure from first glance. It's not just a zombie titty book. There's a lot of really kind of well handling of PTSD and other things in there. So it's a very good book. Brian's a great guy. And he points out something very accurate there. And I need to tease him about it being a zombie book more, because he loves it when you do that. Here's the thing about trades. If people are just waiting for a trade to come out before they grab the series, they're actually fucking over the creative team that's working on the series, unless they're situated where we are. And that's often true, especially at the big two. If you trade wait, and if you're really excited about something and you trade wait for it, then a message gets sent to the publisher that there's not interest in this book. So it tends to get canceled early. They sometimes they won't even commit. Sometimes they pull the trade. That happens as well. And this is a broken system. I mean, make no mistake about it, the system should not work like this in today's day and age, when a lot of people do find trades more viable and that is what they want to buy. There's nothing wrong with making that decision. The fact that the publishers and a lot of the people involved have not, figured out how to gauge interest outside of this, that is a problem. And but he's absolutely correct. This is a legit problem there. And this is what I see. This is where the chat's just behind what we're talking about. Yeah, it's absolutely not the fault of the buyer. It's the fault of it is the system that's broken here. This is the problem here, because I don't blame a buyer for wanting to consume product that way. It makes sense, and especially the new market will want to consume product that way. But this means the publishers and other people involved have to figure out ways to account for that, and that is broken. So anyway, this is a good analogy here.
I think the issue with it is, like, for me, when I trade weight, and I have trade weighted in the past, and I feel no shame in it. It's like, you're hurting creators. I'm not saying Brian's saying that, but or anybody else is, but it's like, well, if the first issue was that damn good, the second, or if first I'm on the fence, maybe I'll pick up the second, but a lot of the time it's like, not that good. Or it just seemed like or the track record of having decompressed stories, I'm like, it's going to read better in the collection. I'm like, it's like, God help me, I love the Ultimates, but that first issue Ultimates was supposed to be like 48 pages.
Sure.
And they broke the first two issues are really supposed to be one issue, because they read the first issue of Ultimates, like nothing really happens in it. It's like it's kind of the, you get part of the story. Yeah, it's a setup. Yeah, it's like, but you really have to read the first two issues, and a couple of other problems like that do occur in comics, and because a lot of these people, when I first read the first issue of ROM, Space Knight by Bill Mantlo and Sal Buscema, that comic right there is like, okay, I got to read the rest. And it was only like a 17-page comic, and it set me up for the entire. And I read the entirety of that run in like 3 days because I got all the comics, and I was tempted to actually, like, if this is not good, I'm going to get rid of it. But it was amazing. A lot of comics, like it's creative choices as well as a publisher. You really do have to put your best foot forward and keep at it. Because a lot of people are like, well, I want to tell this story. It's a slow burn. Slow burn. Bad idea. Bad idea for a graphic novel.
No, not unless you got things established. It's a very bad idea.
Exactly. If you want to do an OGN that starts out as a slow burn, if it's like 200 pages, hey, good on you. But you got 20 some odd pages, 20 pages or whatever to tell a story. Tell a damn good one that's like, okay, you got me. You got me for the second issue. You got me for the third issue. Keep at it. And then it's like when that trade comes out, you need to check this out. Like that kind of thing. And word of mouth, that's what spreads the comics. It isn't like just simply like, well, publishers not buying ad space and pushing the comic as much as they should, because they're only going to get a flat fee. If you're like Image, you're just getting a flat fee off the top. They don't have really any interest, any stake. It's like people say, well, Image is one of a big publisher. Image is like a clearinghouse. They're a Columbia House. Mm-hmm. They don't make country albums and the pop albums and the rock albums that they sell or sold, whatever. I don't even know if they're around still. I just knew not to fall into that scam. For 99 cents, you can get that deal. But they're just a clearinghouse. They get the only thing they own is the Image eye, and they just take that percentage off the top. And they have a collective bargaining deal with the printing, I guess, up in Canada, Quebecor, I believe that's the printer they use. But that kind of deal, like, it's like they compare. It's like when people showed their ass when they were like, "Oh, the Image is about as big as Marvel." I'm like, Image isn't as big as Marvel. Image doesn't really exist. It's a umbrella corporation. It's a bunch of little things underneath.
The umbrella corporation, and they're
pretty much except for finding the dogs, you'll find some Savage Dragon stuff. Instead of the G2 going splorg splorg, you got Savage Dragon comics going splorg splorg. So,
why'd you take it there? Now I
don't know, man. I'm sorry.
Hey, so Ron, absolutely, you can. I'm not wrapping up. No, they're not even get close to wrapping up. Yes, you can always roast me. By the way, always. I don't know. Somebody was saying there's some. I don't know. Somebody was saying in another video, it's like, I think a Perch would get really mad if you insulted him. Quite the contrary. I'm probably the easiest going guy for insults and roasts ever. I'm telling you, I don't give a shit. It's all good.
He's also drinking.
And I'm drinking. It's even more.
You have no power here.
It's all fine. This is a great. This whiskey's wonderful. So Brian's great. Yeah, exactly. And this is the rub. That if you have a creative team, especially doing something new, that you have to, there has to be a way to get that feedback. And I do, ultimately, the blame sits with the publisher. The publisher is broken, totally broken, where this is concerned. It should not work this way, especially with the new model. It's behaving like comics did back in the 70s. And clearly, it should not be that way, but it is a big problem. So, I don't know. Yeah, let's get off this page is depressing to me. Here we go. Yeah. So, hey, this is a cool. So I don't know. This is me being nerdy, but this is the comics that came out in the last this week. This is where the whiskey's getting to my head now. I got to see if I can make sense. This week in past years. These were the comics coming out. And there were some big ass comics. I mean, this was Days of Future Past right there. I mean, that cover has been now parodied and riffed like 8 billion times. There you go. Brian loves you, Larry.
Love you too, Brian. Take it easy, man. Stick around if you can.
I am definitely a happy drunk. I'm a happy, quiet drunk. It's happy and then quiet. This is how this has been my secret weapon and a lot of cons when I go out drinking with people with creatives. And the fact that I have not gone out drinking, this is going to be a year, I think I'm going out drinking with Brian down in San Diego. But many times I go out drinking with creators at that show and I just get quieter and then they just start saying crazy shit. And then I'm quiet and just listening to all of it. So that's my secret weapon. It's like, I get the rumors right there. Anyway, sorry, Days of Future Past. And also there's the Black Panther punching the shit out of the KKK. Like right there on the cover.
see stuff like that. Like I like, but also it's like I'm of two minds of this. Also, being from the South, you think, oh, wow, y'all know what Larry's going to take. No, it's like I love stuff like that, like the Chappelle show, that whole deal. You know, hey, Clay, just take off your hood. But it's stuff like that. To me, it's funny, but it's also like it's funny. It's like, yeah, kick their ass and stuff like that. But it's also like school children got blown. People in a church got blown up. Kids were, men, women, children killed. All horrific things. Like it's like. With the Green Lantern thing with Denny O'Neil, it's like, what you help the green skins and purposely what the black skins, what have you done for them? It's like, I don't know. It's like, even if he were to help out in the DC universe, in the real world, people are still suffering. And it's like, to me, it's like same thing with like, I have this magic, like when they introduce characters with cancer and stuff like that, it's always irritated me because like in the world of DC, it's like how many people come back from the dead. It's like a magic, it just, for entertaining as it can be, it's just like it's like, haha, that's funny. Oh god, it's kind of it's like real world is not as entertaining.
It is amazing to me to see this cover, and if you're zoomed in close enough, I mean, it is. First of all, it's called Jungle Action, and
that's a little.
Yeah, I mean that would not fly today by any stretch of imagination. But I remember this issue, and I think I have it somewhere, and it is pretty nuts. I mean, first off. If this comic was published today, I think everyone would be pissed. This is my premise here. I think that half the comic audience would be pissed because of Jungle Action and maybe some of the other pieces that are going on there. And then the other half would be pissed because it's like, oh, why are we doing politics in comics? And I don't know if the KKK really qualifies as politics exactly, but I mean, definitely everybody would get pissed. And you read this comic, and it's pretty much a straight adventure of the Black Panther coming in and just kicking the shit out of a bunch of KKK people.
It's blaxploitation. That's one thing I love about it. It's like that's Black Panther at that
time, out of people.
And in Luke Cage as well. Like it's that straight up blaxploitation, which everybody's like, oh, that's just terrible. Have you ever watched you ever watched that stuff? It's awesome. It's like Shaft, Dolomite, Fly. Like Dolomite's very comedic. One of the best Doctor Strange movies, in my opinion, was Petey Wheatstraw, the Devil's Son-in-Law. And it's like
exactly.
Stuff like that. It's like over the top. And
if you want to troll and piss people off on Twitter, and I'm not necessarily recommending this, but if you want to do that, then save this. Go on Google, get this Black Panther cover, and just save it, and just wait on social media for somebody. It doesn't really matter what side they're on, to come out with the comics have always had politics or whatever. And then you just post this picture and be like, yeah, dude, look at this one. He's kicking the crap out of these people. And that's all you need to do. And then just step back and watch the fun develop. It'll be amazing.
See, my favorite Black Panther stuff, though, is the old Kirby, where he's like the very trippy cosmic stuff, which was like fascinating. It was like this. I didn't read too much into. You ever heard of Yakub?
Yep.
Okay, it's like that. It's like he made white. Like I was expecting, like a later issue, if Kirby kept doing it, like him to introduce like Black Panther versus Yakub. You've unleashed the white menace upon the earth.
It goes to show you, like, here's this 25-cent comic book. It's got this stuff going on. Not everybody was all crazy and pissed off, and it just like, guys, a good time. Hell, it's great. We totally need a great social commentary debate episode. We'll do this. We're going to do it on election night because we're burning it all down. Is what we're going to do. Anyway,
Seth Rollins, you.
We also have to do the wrestling one because it's like there's so many good wrestling analogies when it comes to comics. It's insane. But
I was trying to think like Jim Shooter would be Eric Bischoff. No, like who would be Jim? I was just trying to think like certain things like you definitely. I know who Liefeld is. Liefeld is
all the wrestlers have. I don't know who you're talking about.
Damn it! Multiple people. That's the thing. There's so many people. Jim Cornette's nemesis. The writer. Hey bro. Damn it! Blanking on hell. His buddy was Ed Ferrara. I remember all this. I remember all the ancillary people around, but it's Russo. Yeah, very much Russo. It's like, hey, everything's great. Brawl for All is great. You know, it's like no. It's like everybody loved this. It's like for every good thing, it's like there's like 50 bad things. People still love him though. That's the weird thing. It's like people still love Russo and they love Bischoff and all these people. It's like Bischoff, he did nothing wrong. Oh, they were top thing. And then like look at you after that, he gets fired. Nash gets the book.
Yeah.
You know, like I think like Kirby would be like a Dusty Rhodes. You know, like that kind of deal.
It is
Grant Morrison's Gold Dust.
Oh dear God. Okay. Yeah. Well, see, we'll do this. We'll do this sometime. This will be a fun show. We got to get Yule on for that one too. We got to get the wrestling people on here. I don't know how to. There's no way to answer this question in anything less than like 5 hours. It is weird because the one thing I can say is that nuance is gone, and I say that because I'm looking at. I did the video yesterday. I don't know, wherever it was. And the premise of the video was actually super, super, super simple. And it's this. If you're going to throw a new character out, white, black, any race, any gender, whatever you're doing, if you're going to throw a new comic out, then hopefully you've got a good plan to not have that comic just come out one issue and be done. That you in theory, you want it to keep going. You want it to be popular, you want it to survive. People make fun of me because I always mention Mosaic, but there's an example of a character. You brought that character out. You want that character to be something, and it just bombed. Like World of Wakanda, that got 2 issues, I think, out total. Like that.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's right.
That's not a success. So you should try and figure out how you make these things successful. But to me, it often feels like the publishers they commission an issue, they go through the trouble, design costumes, get the comic printed, get a creative team, whatever you're going to do. They get a press release, and then at that point, the interest is gone. And 2 issues later, the comic is canceled. And then it's like, that is not a success. If the goal was to introduce more diverse characters, then you have failed because 2 issues is not introducing anything. You put them out and then you wandered away from it. And it was, I don't know. I don't think I made the point completely well, but in the comments, people would like, so you're saying that people shouldn't be able to make a comic without a plan? It's like, no, I'm not saying I'm not saying put up a barrier. I'm just saying like think things through. Like you wouldn't leave your house with no gas and then get confused and pissed while your car runs out of gas. It's Fitz's. It's like there's no tolerance for anything really. There's no ability to kind of really come up with any kind of nuance or like if you disagree with somebody, you disagree with them 100%. Or you agree 100%. There's no in the middle. There's no like, I agree with some things and not these other things. That's all you got. And then you're effed, And you're right, by the way, to this specific video. Yeah, this totally happens to the non-diverse characters too. There's plenty of white male characters that vanish. The difference is they're not putting out press releases for the white male characters saying, hey, we're trying to move the company forward. If your goal is we're trying to move the company forward, we're trying to reach these new audiences, then you should try a little harder because you suck at doing that. Anyway, I talked
2081 Marvel China Com, whatever it's going to be called, release a press statement. We're going to make take a diverse character. We're going to make a diverse character and heterosexual white male. Yeah. It's a minority at that point. It's not funny. Sorry.
No, it's true. It's just hosed. I don't know. It's and I think that there is. It's just there's. I don't know.
The past 8 years has really gone downhill, in my opinion, since like around 2012. I think, it's funny. Everybody's like, oh, the world's going to end 2012, Mayan calendar. In a way, it kind of, in socio-political, worldwide, too, it seems like ever since, the Arab Spring, now you got open slave markets in Libya. It's like, hey, we got to get rid of Gaddafi. Hey, great. But on YouTube, you can find open slave markets where they're selling human beings and a lot of other horrible stuff and, ISIS and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's like, you're destroying ancient monuments, UNESCO sites, and all that kind of deal. It's just fantastic, wonderful college campuses, but you're a white male, that kind of stuff. It's like wonderful. But I mean, it's like, but Flash, I think that's one of the things I love when going back to looking at the past, like with the comics sold, like that Swamp Thing run. Oh my God.
That was a great one. Yeah. That Batman too. This is like one of the classic covers for Batman.
Well, it throwing back to the old gold, to the original, the Golden Age covers with the Mad Monk, which was a vampire. He was a vampire turned into a werewolf. And when Batman's girlfriend at the time, The woman, he was seeing at the time because he doesn't really have just one. He goes and gets candelabras, melts them down into silver bullets, and like vampire sleep, and he's like, son, boom, shoots him dead. I love that Batman. I love Golden Age Batman the most, but that in Warlord, Warlord's so good. People, it's unfortunate. It doesn't seem to really have any presence these days.
Yeah. There was a lot of good stuff. This was the Teen Titans run where, again, this is a dream run of a comic. X-Men got all the attention, but a lot of this stuff in the Titans was just incredible back then.
Unfortunately, they didn't follow up with it with anything strong. You'd expect them to like, with as much as I love Wolfman, and Wolfman's a wonderful guy. I met him many years ago. We talked about Teen Titans. We talked about Crisis and everything like that. Because it was kind of lull period. It was a Sunday at the convention, and he was just, when it was kind of lull period around after lunch, and it was just really cool just to talk with him. It's like I don't think either DC himself. I don't know what the deal was, but I wish they continued onwards with that, like with the direction that X-Men had, because both of them basically at the same time, And though unfortunately, I like the idea of Vic Stone, this football player. He's nearly died. Basically this man machine hybrid, the cyborg. I hate the name cyborg. I really
lazy name. Like,
it's a lazy name. It's a lazy character design. I don't like it. He looks like he's just walking around in like tidy whities all the time.
Sure.
And I don't like it. It's just weird looking.
It'd be like if they called somebody like Robot Man. That wouldn't work either.
Yeah. See, and as much as I love Doom Patrol, it's like that, like stuff like that. Elastigirl, I dig. Hey, Elastigirl's good enough for Incredibles to borrow from.
Look at these though. So as long as now we'll get. So who remembers Dreadstar?
I do, and Dreadstar is that and American Flag, like with the use of cats in both. Mm-hmm. It's like internet meme worthy. Dreadstar, of course, death. Everything is Tim Starlin. Everything he does has got to deal with death and destruction. Everything. If Jim Starlin's on a book, something bad's going to happen. There's no hope. Everything's going to die.
Yeah.
But Alpha Flight, that Fantastic Four, even Logan's Run, that Logan's Run stuff, people forget that those licensed comics from that time, from the 70s and the 80s, your 2001s, your Logan's Run, your Star Wars, your Battlestar Galactica, all that stuff. I mean, then they did the Marvel Super Specials. Marvel was kicking ass with those adaptations and the ongoings and stuff, especially with so Star Wars. And not mistaken, then Star Wars kind of helps keep them afloat.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, there was some pretty amazing stuff. I mean, first of all, this Alpha Flight cover was incredible.
Out of all four covers, the one that catches my eye first is Alpha Flight. The second is Fantastic Four, just because of the shock color, red and white. That white,
it was amazing. Now the comic shop hated this one because it I think the ad on the opposite side of the cover, the back cover, was dark, and so
bleeding through.
Yeah, in many cases, because they're all stacked. So the comic, the back cover of one comic, and it definitely caused some issues. But this was an incredible. This is John Byrne, I think, was on Alpha Flight at this point. You had Fantastic Four, and this is a great trial of Reed Richards issue. All this stuff was amazing. Alpha Flight is a shame because it is. I don't even know what the F is going on with Alpha Flight now as a concept, but that was a cool comic back in the day.
I think the last time I actually had anything when they did the initiative and all that kind of deal, Better Ray Bill and U.S. Agent, and this is the last time I heard of Alpha Flight was around that time, and it's unfortunate that Alpha Flight, besides that, in the Seagal run in the 90s, late 90s, which was with Scott Clark on the artwork or whatever, which is not a bad run, but they were trying to play up the whole mystery vibe, kind of like a little Mission Impossible like at the time, or GoldenEye, that kind of deal. It didn't have that kind of all around feel that the Byrne run did, which is unfortunate. But that Alpha Flight, Byrne was on fire when it came to the comics.
This was an epic era. For sure.
God, yeah. It's like I'm as much as I loved him on the art for Uncanny X-Men, I'm glad he left, Because if he hadn't, we wouldn't have got so many great comics. I mean, with Fantastic Four, Alpha Flight, we got the She-Hulk stuff. Oh my God, this is, and then eventually the Man of Steel.
Yeah, he had a great run. If you think about Marvel during this time period, where you had Byrne on Fantastic Four, you had Alpha Flight, you had the Avengers starting off a really good run. I think you had Roger Stern on Cap, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe I think Roger Stern and then Grunwald, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you had some good Cap back then. I mean, you had stuff like I think you were getting into this a little bit later, but the Bloodstone crossover, that whole not crossover, that arc in Captain America. You had X-Men getting Paul Smith and John Romita Jr. and others in there, and this was an insane time.
Embarrassment of riches comes to mind when you're talking about these comics, and it's like this is just Marvel and DC's output, and the Epic stuff. And Epic at the time were this is around the time, like a little bit before they started reprinting Akira and stuff like that. This is not too long before they were doing the reprints of the Mobius work that he had done, with Blueberry and the Airtight Garage and all that stuff. Oh my God, it's like Azrock.
That's
Azrash.
Right. Yeah, Stern was on Avengers. That's correct. But
I thought it was on Cap too. I thought
Cap was earlier. I think.
Okay. That's probably much earlier than that. Yeah, at this time. Yeah.
But if you were, and this is where, at least for me, a lot of people came into comics. I start, taking notice of comics in the '80s, and then you had this period. I think this is true for most people. When you come in and you get a real interest in comics, you start collecting. There's like this 10-year window back where you have pretty easy access to a lot of things. Maybe you're coming into a current storyline, so you kind of read backwards a little bit. And so if you came in like mid '80s to late '80s into comics, like that 10-year, 12-year, both Marvel and DC era time period was just incredible for you. And that was definitely the golden age of comics for me. That's why I resist a little bit. People are like the '90s were incredible. There's some nice stuff in the '90s, but the '80s I think kicks its ass any day of the week.
As much as I love comics like Starman and Hellboy and Strangers in Paradise and all that, that time period from '85 to '87 in comics, from the corporate comics as well as your Marvel, your DCs, but also like your first comics, your independent stuff, your, Capital, whatever. What was it? First Eclipse, Pacific Comics, all that kind of deal.
Yep.
So many amazing comics. I mean, that in the Fantagraphics as well. Love and Rockets, and oh dear God, so many great comics. And it was then you got your within like a year time span, you had Frank Miller just getting. I know people dislike Frank Miller these days, but without him, it's like he to me he was the man of the '80s.
And it wasn't just in the same time period. You had amazing stuff coming out of Europe. You had some good manga coming out of Japan. You had globally a really great footprint.
Oh yeah, definitely. With stuff even when we were getting here yet, but yeah, the people were getting it, but it's like you could see the influence. People were getting it imported, especially in the big city. You go you have like your Japanese stores, or they have Asian foods, and they'd have those. The Tenkoban, whatever it's called, the collections, the little manga, the collections. It's like you might not be able to read it, but like, oh my God, the visuals. Yeah, but it's like, and it's kind of stark contrast. I mean, at the comics of the time, but looking at these covers, I mean, like you got all the.
And this is a little further back for sure.
Definitely. It's like we're throwing back to the giant DC bullet logos and everything. It's like that's Sergeant Rock. I think a lot of people do not realize how massive those DC war comics were at the time. Oh, yeah. Sergeant Rocks, your Enemy Aces, your Unknown Soldiers. It's like it's so unfortunate that there really is no war comics anymore, except for like Commando that comes out of the UK. Yeah. But then that's like 60 pages, and there's like 2 panels a page. They're equivalent, broke down equivalent of a 22-page comic.
It's pretty incredible. So I'll ask you this too, Larry, but I'll give you an answer. So any books you would recommend for any comic? I mean, for my money, the Words No Pictures book by Brian Michael Bendis is definitely all you need.
The Alan Moore one, the Alan Moore book that Avatar Press put out.
You're being serious. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna no sell that joke like Hulk Hogan.
No, like I actually thought that was a real book for a second. I was like,
it is. Don't get me wrong. There is a book out there, and I don't have the title exactly right. It's like I think it's like it's something like words, no picture.
Oh my god, he just hit. I thought he said pictures, no words. In my head, I was like, no, what he said is wrong. It can't be that. It was like, and then it clicked in my head with Bendis. Oh my god.
It's words for pictures, the art and business of writing comics and graphic novels. And I think, from my perspective, if you want a good book on how to do it completely wrong, that is what you should do. But like read that book and then do exactly the opposite. But he's very successful, so I'm not one to talk.
I think he just got lucky. I honestly think it was like he not necessarily lucky, but connections. Because you got to think that was like, this is, Event Comics, Quesada back in the day, jumping around back and forth, because doing pinups or this and that, and the Marvel, DC, independent grind, they're probably in the same boat. Hey, you want to write Spider-Man? And then the perfect storm of the movie coming out, like Spider-Man hitting the big screen, and everybody's fresh take.
I should definitely be fair. I'm being a little tongue in cheek. This is second glass of whiskey and everything. So there's stuff to learn there. I'm bagging on Bendis a little bit.
He's a big boy. He could take it. Hey, man, he got the original. It's like this was so funny about when people defend, like, how dare you talk bad about Bendis? I'm like, hey, the dude's been writing comics for 20 plus years. He's had streaming series. He had consulting gigs for Disney. Wow, I'm pretty sure, I'm going to hurt his feelings. Like, how dare you pick on, like, leave Bendis alone.
No, there's stuff to learn. I joke a little bit, but I do think you were about to say Alan Moore. I was going to say the Alan Moore book and the Peter David books.
And Stephen King, too. The Stephen King book.
Stephen King.
It's like,
yep.
You can't really go. I mean, granted, you can't really 100% translate this stuff. The Alan Moore one, it was written, I think it was originally written before he did Watchmen, around the time he was writing Watchmen. So this is like, people always think, he writes to his artist. You have to get to know your artist. You're working. That's why each script looks like, I couldn't understand this. It's like, if you look at some of his scripts, it's like, he's like as bad as, I think that's what people misunderstood about his writing. He like kind of gets to know the creative team. He's just not writing for some Joe Schmo to come in. He's writing specifically for that artist, and I think that's a lot. I think that's honestly a miss, because when they were creating, like him and Dave Gibbons when they were doing Watchmen, 13 months, 12 issues, 30 plus, is a 28 page each issue plus back matter for each issue, and basically it was a full collab. It was like a true collaboration on a project. And now it's like, I think it's like you have to go through if you're only working, the corporate side of writing, I think it's got to go through editors, unless you're, high profile, like, I want to work with this, I want to work with that person. It's like, even then it's like, I think you still got to go through editors and assistant editors. And you don't want to, because if you say something bad to the artist will get upset, and we got to run interference because, you can't be adults. It's like bureaucracy for comics. But I think that's unfortunate that's the way it is now. But if you're gonna be writing for, I've never written for someone that I've worked on collabs. I've never had to, pay out of my pocket, short stories like 4 pages here, 6 pages there, that kind of thing. But I pretty much took that page out of the Alan Moore playbook, and like, I'm no Alan Moore by any stretch of imagination, but I give the artist, one thing is give your artist, freedom to elaborate, to make the art look good, to make the art flow. And it's like, if they come up with something better, as long as the context is there, the ultimate message is, received and gotten across. If you can take something that was broke down to 6 panels and do it in 4 or less and make it look good and flow, by all means, make it happen.
Yep.
But don't, don't we just start excising pages of content? I don't want to draw that. I don't draw, it's like, work with them.
There's some good stuff. I think I do think that McLeod's the understanding comics book is good if you're a writer. You kind of understand the way things are going to translate to an artist. There's a lot of good stuff out there. More and more, there's just good blogs out there rather than books that I think are probably pretty helpful. You find somebody who has a style that sounds like it resonates with you, and I should go through and I'll dig up some of those. There's definitely some place to do it. And then more than anything, read more of the authors you really love. So for me, when I was coming up with some story ideas and doing other things with my own projects, I read more Philip K. Dick, because I think there's a lot of good stuff there. And it's just read more, even if it's not comics, and it helps.
I'll honestly read more stuff that isn't comics. Honestly, because like if you're just regurgitating, Bendis or Claremont or even Stern or whoever, it doesn't matter. Stan Lee, I don't know if I'm going to regurgitate Stan Lee because it's really just dialogue. But no matter who your favorite writer is, if you're just regurgitating what they do, it's like comes off as a bad pastiche most of the time. But if you're going after something like Philip K. Dick or Robert Anton Wilson or whoever, Jules Verne, go back and do some old whatever. Go. It worked for Marvel. It worked for Marvel. Jules Verne and all that old stuff too. Whoever. Hemingway. I don't know. Like there you go. That's a good Hemingway version of comics or something. Hemingway's take on Superman.
Go all in. It's that's the way you do it. But anyway, so on this, I want to draw attention to the unless I'm mistaken, that's a Barry Windsor Smith New Mutants cover. I think
it is a Barry Windsor Smith cover, and that's so unfortunate. He kind of just retreated from comics. Like at this time, I think that issue came out because that's the whole Secret Wars 2. That was around the time of Life Death 2. I think it was a little bit. That's probably a little after Life Death 2. Yep. And then I think he had pitched that Hulk story that kind of Mantlo in a way stole. Where it's like the origin of why the Hulk is so angry. Though that story is actually being kind of was reworked and will be coming out in like a couple months with called Monster. Yep. Which is black and white, like 300-page that Barry Windsor Smith's been working on for like 30 years, basically. Which is like off and on. So I'm any new Barry Windsor Smith, I'm happy for. Everyone's like, oh, he quit comics. He gave up. He didn't want to do comics no more. No, he's still at it. It's like thank God. Like there's miracles do happen. But
absolutely.
But that stuff like, and he pitched Life Death 3. Marvel was like, no. So he turned that to Dastra in Africa, which is about which is basically Storm, except she's not Storm. It's a goddess, but not traditional, and then expanded upon that. And then Squadron Supreme, Mark Grunwald.
Yep, that's Grunwald.
I loved it, but it's got jobber art. It's very jobber. I let Paul Ryan and the artists that are in there, but I'm pretty sure that's Paul Ryan that did that one, did the artwork. But it's jobber art. It's like
it is clunky. I mean, it's funny because you can find really goofy art. I in preparing for the stuff with Joe, I went back and was reading the Captain America run before we got to the Brubaker run, and there is some of the most bizarre effed up art you've ever seen in your life in some of those comics. I mean, we complain about current standards, but oh my God, there is stuff that's nuts in there, and that's it's always been with us.
It has. Oh, and Federico is right. Read Shakespeare. Without him, no modern comic series, movies, etc. I mean, we still using, hey, no George R. Martin. Pretty much no anything. Like no. Oh my God. Like, hey, no Morlock. What was it? The Caliban and all that kind of deal. No, all that kind of stuff. It's just so much rooted back in that past, but.
Great stuff.
West Coast Avengers. That's something that, like, I think people know about it because the most recent series they did, which just looked like, but it's the original West Coast Avengers stuff. Oh my God, it was so good. It was like a soap. It was more soap operation than the mainline Avengers book, but it worked that way. It was like your Dallases, what Twin Peaks was kind of parodying a little bit, except it didn't have the weird. No, I take it back. With the whole reveal of the twins, which the children of Wanda and Vision didn't really. That was some David. That was some. Was.
No, it's
and then the part with the Born Again arc, that right there. But some new covers.
No, sorry, I'm going.
Oh no, it's fine. No, it's fine. No, it's more fun. It's like.
It's nuts to see some of this stuff again. It's the legacy of comics. There's just been so much.
That's so unfortunate. So many people have come into comics for one reason or another, where they watched a movie or maybe they read it a long time ago, and like all they hear about is all the bad comics. Like that's what gets talked about the most, because that's what makes people money on YouTube. That's the thing. Like, folks, it's like, as much as like, you can be passionate because they're passionate because they're making money. That's it. If everything was good, and like when people say, I want good comics, Perch says it, I believe it.
Oh,
there's other people to say, no, you want good comics, because that's true. Like, you want the comics to be best they can be. 99.99% of the chance of other comic channels, they just want, they say that, but the good comics are like, every comic that came out was a good comic, which, statistically, basically it's statistically impossible.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But if there was, they would go out. You can't talk. Nobody wants to hear about good things. They want to hear about bad. If it bleeds, it leads. Whether it's comics, whether it's politics, whether it's news, it doesn't matter. Sports. Nobody wants to hear the good thing. They don't want to hear. They want to hear the bad. They want to hear like, oh, this art sucks. The writing sucks. It's woke. Da, 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 da.
I'm curious. And for the people who are here, and we've had a lot of people come and go. This has been one of the most biggest turnover. Because I've been watching kind of the stats of the people coming to the chat. We've had over 350 different people in. We're not keeping them. I'm boring. That's the problem.
I'm the one shoving.
Damn it, it's you.
You would keep them if it wasn't for me. Just it was like,
no, but it is. I'm convinced that a lot of the people, and this, I don't know how to combat this. You'll hear in a lot of the videos coming up that I do that. Like, I almost do a too long didn't read, like right out the gate immediately, because there are people who will see the headline of the video and then they'll start commenting, and it's clear they're not watching the video. Like the Miss Marvel one that came out, it's been canceled. But I say, and I think anyone who's watching closely can pretty much predict that there will be a new Miss Marvel #1 within a few months. I mean, I'll be shocked if it's more than 60 days.
I hope it looks like that. I hope it looks like your art and my art. The go full Oda, go full Ichiro Oda. Which I don't know if you saw. Perch had done a be like the original. Made Miss Marvel look like Luffy, and I said I'm gonna do something like that. And so I started out with Spider Woman with what's her name? I'm blanking on her name. The woman had the character had her boobs got bigger as the series went on.
Nami,
that's it. I want to say Nana, but that's wrong.
I mean, in fairness, all the characters really had that problem going on. They were all eating the titty fruit, I think, is people who are not like, I do not know what One Piece is, are really confused right now. But trust me, that thing gets ridiculous. And I'm going through this with my kids, and we're watching the things, and I'm there with my wife, and my wife looks over at me. She's like, "What the hell are they doing with Nami there?" Like, she's like, it gets absurd at different periods. So.
She gets stacked. I remember seeing One Piece when Shonen Jump, which is in the Shonen Jump comics were coming out when they're $4.99 a piece. 300 pages, black and white. These issues, like, there's like nothing really new in them. They were just reprinting stuff that's like 7-8 years old, but reprinting them here, and it was just like incredible. Like, for the price of what Marvel was charging, like for price of a comic and a half, you can get 300 pages monthly of great comics. But yeah, and so to see that art, and then like, whoa, what happened to her?
Yeah,
but I had done like the house, the crack house of ideas with stealing with Luffy looking Miss Marvel swinging on a bent car crashed lamppost, stealing the Crimson Gem of Sidorak from the crack house Marvel, the house of ideas. But stuff like a manga style would work on them books. I honestly think a full blown deal. And you're telling me you couldn't get. You don't need. There's so many artists that are hungry out there, especially I'm pretty sure. I'm not saying pay them because you can get a foreign country, you get a cheaper artist. That's how a lot of people do, and we see that in comics. That's unfortunately the case. Like, I could pay this artist for a third of what it costs for an American artist, and they'll take it because they're living in the slum of whatever country, and it's like, get one of these fast, like, put out like original, like 50, 60 pages a month or something. Yeah.
I feel bad for this guy. Like, for this guy, you're back from sparring. I hope you had a good workout. What's going on is I'm more drunk, and we have moved into Nami's chest size.
I'm getting more insane, and he's getting more drunk. As more drunk he gets, the more crazy I get, and I'm already getting blows to the head anyway. So it's
this is an interesting point, though, brother. So the roasting videos, I think some have definitely diversified, some have not. But this is an interesting counter effect. And I'll just roll this out. Is that you did have a problem where, let's see if I can make this drunken comment properly, that the comic establishment, the publishers, the people who are trying to get jobs with comic companies are a lot of the news sites, and they're not, objective journalists. They're basically, their goal is to get into comics. So everything they're going to say is a lot of praise. And there got to be this mode, certainly about 10 years ago. I remember when the New 52 was coming out, a lot of the coverage was just sickening it was like over the top positive about everything. And I wasn't, me personally, and I know others, we're not looking for, the exact opposite of that. We weren't looking for all roast. We were just looking for, some balance. Not every comic is 10 out of 10, the best thing that's ever happened, etc. And then on top of that, when you're dealing with a bunch of comic fans who have been collecting for 20, 30 years, and they have their favorite storylines, they start to get personally offended. Maybe they shouldn't, but they do. When you start saying things like, hey, this random issue of, Rob Liefeld's Deathstroke is the best comic that's ever been produced in the last 30 years. You're like, oh, bullshit. That's not. And so that it kind of bubbled up and got more and more agitated because there was it was just all one direction. And so I think this is a correct statement, that a lot of these kind of roasts and other things came in as a counterbalance to that. And then now it's kind of all over the place. Some people have moved on, others have doubled down. There's money to be made, but we never fix kind of the root problem, which is these like comic reviews are tough. It's anyway, it's nuts. So there's a risk to drinking and streaming for sure.
Oh, well, you got me here, bud. I'm the designated driver. It's like,
there you go. Yeah.
I won't test positive on any kind of a breathalyzer test, but I get out. I'm like, you're working. I'm a sovereign citizen. You're by the maritime laws. This nation.
Maritime laws. Yeah.
And you're over there like, oh no, I should have. The Brave and the Bold comics you had before, the House of Mystery. You got your Conans now. You got Spider-Man, the Black Suit, the Web of Spider-Man. People forget how many Spider-Man comics there were back in the day with Spectacular Web and everything. And the Thing had a long-running series. I believe Ron Wilson did most of the issues, I'm not mistaken. And I'm pretty sure it was Ron Wilson, right, on the art?
For some of it. I don't think for some of it, yeah.
I'm going to have to look that up. There's a handy website that I use, and I recommend it for anybody that likes the comic facts. They don't have everything. And also their search engine is not 100%. It's called comics.org, and it's a grand comic book database. And you can type in artists, writers, issues, issue numbers as well. And some stuff, like if it has like Wildcats, you got to put WILD, C period, A period, T period, that kind of deal. And sometimes I forget how to do it sometimes. Like, we're gonna put it. Oh, we're gonna go back. But you can actually find certain stuff out. And it's like, who did the inks, who did the covers? Because sometimes they went by aliases. With certain like Michael Baird, that's not his real name, and it's stuff like that. But not his full name. But a lot of these creators, were not credited on a lot of these comics back in the day, and it's unfortunate. It's like, comic by Bob Kane, and it's like, no, he had nothing to do with that comic. He just had a good lawyer and had his name. It's like Stan Lee presents. Like, what does that mean? He didn't do nothing. He had nothing to do with the comic. He hasn't been with a company for like 20 years. He's just like a name only. It's like that always bothered me as a kid. It's like, why is his name everywhere? Yeah. But that's I digress. But the thing was, the Thing comics was like very much akin to the 2-in-1, not the team up, the 2-in-1 stuff. And it's like very, very adventurous, very fun. They're very fun comics. I think that's one of those things we don't really have. The Zdarsky stuff is about the closest thing I can think of to the old Thing comics when he did that thing. That's what it reminded me of, at least.
I think Zdarsky does a great job of channeling that old feel of the Thing, and there's some good stuff in there for sure. I do think there's a lot of characters Marvel has that I think with fairly minimal effort you could do some really good stuff with, and especially if they're going to go into digital, where you want to have a shorter story. You don't want to commit to 22 pages, and you want to build out your back catalog. There's a lot of really great stuff out there.
Yeah, and I was right. Thing number one, the artwork, the cover was by John Byrne, but the interiors were Ron Wilson. That's issue 32. That would be looking it up right now. Like, I mean, this like great stuff. Covered by Ron Wilson, so I was right. I did look Ron Wilson, even in that thumbnail on my screen. Interior written by Mike Carlin. Wait, wasn't he a Batman editor? Yeah, didn't he
no.
Mike Carlin.
Not quite yet. I don't know who you're talking about, by the way. Is it me? Dr. Drew? I don't think I sound like Dr. Drew, but maybe.
You do kind of sound. You know what? That actually does. You kind of sound like Dr. Drew a little bit. From the old Love Line stuff. Oh my God! Yeah, you just don't tell people because Dr. Drew's house kills people. So don't go over to Perch's house. Don't go over to the bear den. The bear den.
I'll work on my voice a little bit. And so people are saying that Joe Corallo sounded like Adam Carolla. So if the two of us just do this together, we can. It's perfect. Okay.
Love Lines. Yeah. Review some romance comics from the 50s. There you go.
Everybody's always told my voice sounds like somebody. It's always different. I don't know. I'll work.
Somebody told me I looked and sounded like John Belushi, and I said, hopefully in 1980, not now. And it's like it took him a second to get it. And it's just that kind of stuff. It's like, well, thanks. And it's like, well, I mean, I was going to say John Candy, and I'm like, that don't help none. Both of them are dead. What are you doing?
Yeah. Don't go with dead people. Cool. I learned I sound like Dr. Drew. That's awesome. Okay.
Oh yeah, that issue right there. That thing issue. Ron Wilson as well is doing the breakdowns with inks by Dave Simons, written by Mike Carlin. The Thing, Sharon Ventura, Ed Garner, Vance Astrovic, Speedo, character named Speedo. Oof. He must manscape.
Yeah. Well, so many did back in it. Well, I'm not going to go down that path. We Live. This is a good recommendation. I am doing a review of that, so I don't know when it will post, but someday. The We Live by the Miranda Brothers is very good. I think I've said this before, but if you come with a story that's new and original and different, I forgive a million sins in that comic. The experience of reading something new makes up for tons. And that's my bias. So sometimes I recommend things and people are like, this is complete garbage. I'm like, but it's new.
I'm the same way with God Hates Astronauts. I've recommended that comic a lot. I understand people why it seems very superhero-like. There's a character named Gnarled Winslow. It's Carl Winslow from Family Matters. There's also Family Matters, but he's like, I shot a kid. It's like with the Die Hard. It's Reginald Feld Johnson, but with gorilla arms because he got his arms ripped off. So he got a transplant with gorilla arms. And it's a strange, bizarre, but fun comic. And it's one of those things that's like, it's hard to quantify. It's humor, but it's also got it's kind of heartbreaking at times too for the characters, like the bad romance, drama. It's weird. It's like, but not like what they've done with some of these characters weird, like with X-Men weird, like, Mr. Sinister's Femme and crazy and all that kind of stuff, or was when the last time I read it. I was like, okay, I think I'm done with this stuff. Or like, Dark Side Baby weird. This is a guy's head gets beaten up real bad and his head swells because he's got like invulnerability. His head just keeps swelling. He doesn't die from like encephalitis or whatever. His like brain bleeding and everything. And eventually it gets popped, so his head's like looks like a pumpkin that's rotted. And it's just great stuff like that. It's like, you want immortality? This is the price you got to pay.
Yeah.
But sometimes too original sometimes can be a problem.
It's always good. I'm out of comics. There we go. It's just us now, and probably we'll start to wrap up. So if there are other questions that people have, I will answer them as soberly as I can. Now I'm staring at these shot glasses thinking, I don't know. I guess we have 10 days until the election, the world completely coming unglued. It's 10 days. I will do the live stream next Friday.
10 days to election, 11 days to the Civil War.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't wait that long. It's gallows humor. Oh my God. I worked around people that, like, I had to learn gallows humor really quick. I had to learn to get used to it, and it's like people like get really offended by gallows humor, and it's like
how dare you? You can't joke at a time like this. It's either that or cry, and I'd rather joke than cry because like I can laugh through it. I can get angry at it possibly, but like it's so bad. Like nothing gets accomplished. At least laugh, move on, or get angry, move on. But sadness is just you get sucked into it, like the swamps with Artax and Never-Ending Story, which is just show that to a kid. You want to traumatize a child? Show them Never-Ending Story.
Yeah. It is. I don't know. It's going to be a wacky. It's going to be a wacky 10 days. We'll survive it together. We'll do a stream. Definitely do a stream election night. I mean, we might as well. we might as well. Unless I guess I'm making promises I can't necessarily keep. My wife may be like, "You're not doing that shit. You're going to be inside the house, kind of holding on to the couch with us as the world comes unglued." We'll see what happens. But anyway. If there's any other questions, we certainly it's been a pleasure as always, Larry, just chatting with you for the whole 2.5. Good Lord, 2.5 hours.
Hey man, I think the only reason you were able to go that long because you had your friend whiskey, you had your friend alcohol at your side, as well as me to like eat up like half the time. Like I'm like Pac-Man, like time just.
It's been good. Well, I mean, these conversations always fly by, and I love having the people in the chat and all the questions. And I mean, I'm just hoping you guys are enjoying yourselves and having a good Friday night, and this is fun for you. I always feel like I'm stealing from you guys. That I'm I'm getting some value and some entertainment. It's just a good time. I always leave these things feeling really good. And yeah, you're the thing. You're paying me. It's wonderful. I feel very, very lucky.
It's fun. It's actually fun to have a conversation with someone that actually enjoys what they do, enjoys having just a conversation. No ulterior motives. Just like, hey, let's just talk. Like, it's like this one thing I miss about the old days of a comic store where when I used to go on a regular basis, like every Wednesday, and I basically spent $50 just to like shoot the shit, as it were, at the comic store. And even like sometimes like I would buy pizza, sometimes other people would buy pizza. We stay after the store closes and we just talk comics, talk other stuff. Break out some sketchbooks, do some drawing, stuff like that. Maybe collab on a project. Nothing ever happened, of course, because art school rejects and never. I'm working on my sketchbook, and I'm like, gotta get out of your sketchbook one of these days, buddy. They never did. But stuff like that. It's like this is kind of like that without having to, having to turn off lights off in the store and all that stuff, and having more people in there than the store could allow.
Oh yeah, this always fun. There'll be no social distancing with this amount of people, and I was completely full of crap. There's tons more comics here, but I'm not going to go through them all slowly. So but there are a couple of funny ones. Check this out. So first off, we got some DC books here, and I love how Weird Western Tales goes all in with just that is there's some funny stuff here. I like the what is it? This is Star Sapphire's butt in the Supervillains comic is really rendered like if you look at the different characters, they put all the effort into that butt.
He's the male gaze too.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Reverse Flash is for the male and female gaze. There you go for Reverse Flash as well.
I mean, clear, but the Reverse Flash, there's like no effort put into there. The artist clearly put all their effort into one butt on that screen. But I do that Scalp Hunter comic is pretty. Now that's the comic that would make people insane if it was published today, right there. Anyway, and then here we go. We've got we're still in Assistant Editors Month, and we've got the Doctor Doom is not in this Marvel comic, and Frankie Ray. So there's some John Byrne action there going on, and then. Who can't forget Quasar? That's always great. So.
Quasar I try to like. Unfortunately, it's like one of those generic. Like to me, he just comes off as generic, even though he isn't really. But he's just very unfortunately he's generic and kind of nothing. It's like too many. It's like him and Captain Marvel, Monica, are similar. I'm gonna go Monica pretty much every single time, honestly. Oh, the original Marvel Monica, yeah. Carol Monica, Monica, because I love Monica so much. So it's like, unfortunately, Quasar gets stuck. But the Rick Jones Genus, that's tough because I like
Team Spell. Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff. That's some good stuff too. But I still go Monica because Such a great character developed by Stern. But yeah, Defenders.
I like that Marvel was all in with the you can win a 10-speed racer. This was
that and the Toys R Us thing, $25,000 at Toys R Us.
Yeah. Oh, I used to have so many fantasies about that. Just going in there and cleaning out that store and just laughing.
People be like, "What's a Toys R Us?" Like, "What's a rotary phone?" Like, oh man, like I used to have a rotary. A classic Green Lantern cover.
Yeah. So how about this Green Gardner?
Guy Gardner. Yeah.
Guy Gardner. Green Gardner.
It was at this point in the live stream. The alcohol took hold.
Yeah. There you have it, Guy Gardner. Thank you. This was this was again kind of the sketch cover going on there, and you had Infinity Inc. and that was a Crisis book.
I'm not mistaken. It's the Chaykin cover, correct? Yeah, it's Chaykin. I believe that's Chaykin.
I think you're correct, and that's Todd McFarlane.
It looks sketchy, but it's stippling because he used stippling in the American flag. I'm not mistaken.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I've read this stuff, but it's been like I haven't read that issue in probably like 20 years, man. Like 15, 20 years. That and the Blue Devil. I only read like 2 or 3 issues of Blue Devil.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then Infinity Inc. People don't realize Infinity Inc. before JSA kind of got the 99 run with Goyer and James Robinson before Jeff Johns joined in, and before their little short around 0 Hour or kind of with Mike Parabeck on art. Infinity Inc. was basically the generational deal. It was like the children of the original JSA, and like you had Dr. Midnight, you had all your characters, and even had throwback to pretty much the precursor to Dark Savage and Superman, which Iron Monroe, the son of Hugo Danner from the Philip Wiley novel Gladiator, which is an amazing novel. If you've never read it, if you like superhero characters, you like novels, read it. It has one of the most amazing scenes ever. A superhuman running through the no man's land. He gets a bombshell explodes, tears him open, blows up his best bud. He's naked because the bombshell has ripped his clothes off and nearly killed him. Has like shrapnel in his chest and shoulder, but because of superhuman strength, he climbs above the trenches, runs through no man's land with barbed wire and bullets bouncing off of him. And the barbed wire is like wrapped around him with the wood. He jumps into the trenches of German soldiers and starts ripping them apart by hand. I want this in a movie or comic. This in my head, and I read this and then after this, he takes the trenches, keeps moving, and after this, like, oh, good job. And he's like, he steals an airplane and he loads it up with as many bombs as it can carry, and he's going to go kill the Kaiser. Wilhelm. He's going to actually go and do a suicide bombing, and then the armistice is signed. I'm like, this is like, this comic. It's like, this is like what Superman, like, all the craziness of the Golden Age. This is like everywhere it kind of comes from.
Oh yeah, no, I dig this. Is what's crazy about this run is you've got Chaykin, you've got Alan Davis, you got Todd McFarlane on one screen, all with DC.
Yeah, people forget Todd did some Marvel did DC stuff before he did Marvel. It's so unfortunate. It's like, the Aunt May Franklin Richards one. Oh, that was so good.
Unfortunately, as close as we're going to get to a Silver Surfer one, I don't have one for this week. But this is a good one to end on as we roll down the stream, because I am now Perch, shame of the city. So wandering out of this room. No, that's an accurate description of me walking around Seattle right there.
That's after you've been mugged by peaceful protesters.
That's right. Seattle's so sad. God, I want that city to recover, but man, it's a mess right now. Not what you see. I think
some 40 Mike and napalm will help that out.
No, it's not. The news doesn't describe what's going on well, but it is. It's so many businesses have moved out. It's just it's a mess. But
Detroit 2.0.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, I like how, by the way, with that Iron Man who got just Iron Man's flying away just in the top like left hand corner. It's just he's just taking off. But anyway,
he's like, F this party, I'm out.
Yes. And that's Fred Himbeck doing the Spider-Man book. Like this was the assistant. This was when Marvel would do. It was a fun Marvel Assistant Editors Month. They put out crazy ideas. It wasn't like every week.
Shooter's Marvel. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
This is Shooter era Marvel, and I like Shooter, but I don't think he's like, everybody's like, oh my god, he'll correct everything that's wrong in comics today. Just put him back in chart. Like, it isn't going to happen. Give up the dream. It's I think he's on like a assisted living or something now, or something like that. I don't know. Not assisted living. Like just click the Social Security or whatever. Like that is doing like nothing really in comics. I don't think. But yeah, this is like back in the day when people like now it's like, he was a taskmaster and no, like basically like all business and no fun. Like those issues are fun. The assistant editor month stuff. It's bizarre and fun. It's like this is like when TV shows would do the weird like the Halloween episodes, the April Fool's episodes, like the theme episodes. Yeah. That's the equivalent of comics, and they were just. It's like because some of this stuff can be like, hey, alcoholism and being torn apart from the people you love, and watching your allies and friends die. You know what? Sometimes you need a break. You need to this is the comedic stuff that you needed every now and then. Unfortunately, comics, especially Marvel, have gone too comedic. But that's my point of view on that.
No, it's true. This was a fun thing, and it came every now and then. It broke it up, and it felt like the people making the comics were having fun. And if you were reading the comics, you were having fun, and they were just fun. They were wacky, and it was it didn't take itself too serious, and we didn't take it too serious, and everything worked out. But anyway, hey everybody who came to the chat, there were lots of people kind of in and out. I really appreciate it. Again, I meant what this is not like the tearful drunken end where I'm just thank you guys, we're all great. No, I really enjoy interacting with you guys, and Larry, as always, it's just always we go 2.5 hours because I don't know when to shut up.
Hey, thanks, man. Thank you for having me on. This is a great stream. Thank you for everyone that stopped by and everyone that's listening in the future. Hopefully, after the Civil War calms down, yes. Order is restored, or the aliens have shown up, or the meteorite. Everybody's like meteorite 2020 or whatever, or asteroid 2020. Hopefully, whatever you wish for, you get. And if all that kind of craziness. But thank you everyone for stopping by and we had a good time, and we wouldn't have been able to have a good time, as good a time as we did, if it wasn't for you all. So please make sure, if you have not subscribed to the channel, hit subscribe, give us a thumbs up, recommend us to your friends, your clergymen, your aldermen, your politicians, because I'm pretty sure we could change the world if you let us.
Absolutely.
Perch, Larry, 2020. There you go. Put it right us in.
Absolutely. And I also want to throw a special thank you to a shout out to Whiskey, who helped me so much during this stream. Thank you very much.
And I will say right now, he is not in the pocket of Big Whiskey yet. He wants to be, but he will. That's the dream.
I will crawl into that pocket. You can just open it up. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, thank you everybody for coming, and we will see you in a week. Bye.